Greetings, everybody. Bravo Zulu, the 49th Annual Symposium of the National Naval Officers Association is underway. I'm Daniel. Your book is absolutely incredible. I know Paul Stilwell put out a first book, which is an oral history look at the Golden 13 that were alive at that time, but you've done a complete study of all of the 16 young, incredible brothers of the United States Navy who were enlisted, and then they got their commissions circular the last of February and the early March of 1944. Daniel, tell us a little something about Lieutenant Commander Dalton Bond. He was an engineer and all from your perspective.
Yeah, not just an engineer, but he earned a master's degree from MIT in 1956. And, you know, the book is obviously about the first 13 African-American officers and how groundbreaking they were. But you have to, imagine being an African-American engineer, getting your master's at MIT in, Massachusetts was not always the most hospitable place for African-Americans. So this is a man of extraordinary talent and brains. He graduated second in his class when he went to school in the Navy. This is a top-notch mind who, came from a very small town in Arkansas, very humble beginnings, but sort of like, what makes America great. I mean, really a meritocracy, somebody who was able to rise through the ranks, both literally and figuratively, because of his talent. After the Navy, he worked for the Massachusetts Public Works Department and was one of the first two engineers hired by Boston's traffic department ever in history, white or black. And that's really a testament to his acumen.
As we greet everybody for the 49th Annual Symposium of the National Naval Officers Association, Daniel C., recollections on what I should know more about Lieutenant Jesse Arbor, Golden 13.
So the world's a small place because we just talked about your other mentor, Dalton Bowe, and Jesse Arbor is also from a small town in Arkansas. So what are the odds that your two mentors, the two original African-American officers, both from these small towns in Arkansas? One of my favorite, I have a ton of favorite stories that I uncovered about Jesse Arbor because he was so funny. And I don't think, and everyone I talked to about him mentioned his sense of humor, something he did to crack them up. Probably one of my favorite stories that I think sort of encapsulates his personality, his irreverence, if you will, is that he was talking to somebody in the 80s. And by then the Golden 13 were prominent. They were much better recognized and better appreciated than they were certainly in the 1940s and 50s when before the civil rights movement. And Jesse Arbor said, the only problem with getting all this recognition now is that I'm too old to drink all the whiskey that's free. And I think that is,
yes,
that's just Jesse Arbor, right? I mean, just a way to both pay homage to the moment and yet with a little bit of a twinkle in his eye, showing that he took the job seriously, but not himself seriously.
Okay, yes, the story of my two greatest mentors, Golden 13 United States Naval officers, the first, Jesse Arbor, Lieutenant Jesse Arbor, and Lieutenant Commander Dalton Bond, shipmates. Hope you're enjoying the 49th Annual Symposium of the National Naval Officers Association, virtual style, as we still try to settle our issues with COVID here in the United States and all over the world. So enjoy the symposium. I'm Captain Rick Wright, historian for the National Naval Officers Association, and Daniel C. Goldberg. Thank God for you and all that you do. Hayes Gray, Bravo Zulu to you. We're underway.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah, Len, I'm hearing you. What's up, guy?
Oh, nothing much. It's just good to see you, man. Thanks for what you do.
That's your favorite guy, Reuben Wright III, who's produced all those. In fact, there's a whole, I think Quan, they're going to put it on the website, but there's a whole hour, I think it runs about an hour and 15 minutes of a whole analysis of all of the Golden 13 members.
Great, send it to me, man.
Yeah, we recorded it at the same time we did that. It'll be on the NNOA website. Also, I think Ruben's got it uploaded to YouTube. It's all over the place. I think they just did it over the last day or so.
All right, please do me a link. Thanks.
Okay, we'll do, Len. Hey, great conference here, man. Cap, and I tell you, man, we just really got to keep on keeping on, man.
Yeah.
We're needed more than ever here at the National Naval Officers Association.
Hey, Karita.
Captain Wright,
Okay,
can
man.
we
Admiral
gotta-
Sinclair Harris, you're the greatest, man. Love you. Love you.
Okay, shipmates, we need to calm down. We got the incoming ACMAC in the house, and if you haven't worked with General Smith, you are in for some great mentoring and some great learning coming up here. But is it going to be a Colonel Clue, or is it going to be you there, Jamar, doing the introduction?
I'll be taking to him, sir.
You've got the deck in the con there, shipmate. So over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is
All right,
Captain.
we got a minute. So you know people are in their bathroom break, and we got to give them, especially the old folks, some time to get back.
Yes, sir. Will do.
Be nice, Sink.
Hey, Jamar, Admiral Harris was talking about me. I think I hit the head like 3 times on the way down here because I didn't want to get punked by Admiral Harris. So
Hey, sir, I just recall what Billy Crystal said about when he turned 60. He started peeing in Morse code.
I go into self-imposed dehydration about 2000 just to be safe. Hey, Sink, I'm sorry I missed the phone call yesterday. It's been a bit of a hot mess as we redo some of the budget. So I never good to miss the phone call with the president of NNOA the day before the virtual symposium, but so I owe you for that, Sink. My apologies.
Sir, I know you will adapt and overcome. No worries. Okay, there, Captain Alexander, over to you there, shipmate.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Captain Jamar Alexander. I am one of the USMC representatives for the National Naval Officers Association. This afternoon, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the next speaker, who is the Deputy Commandant for Combat Development and Integration, Lieutenant General Eric Smith. He has served in numerous leadership positions, one being the Senior Military Assistant to the Secretary of Defense, the Commanding General of 1st Marine Division, and the Commanding General of 3 MEF, and just overall a longtime supporter of the NNOA efforts. As mentioned here, great speaker, and if you served in any capacity with him, you will just be amazed at just how much he cares for just the individual leaders and the individual Marines. At this time, General, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, Jamar, thanks. And again, I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate the opportunity. Not the position I want to be in today, following the commandant. That is not good. Following the commandant, because there's nowhere to go but down. So I'm going to attempt to provide some input, maybe some insight, but more importantly, to answer questions. As Admiral Harris, Sink and I go way back. I really do try to speak a little, listen a lot, and then answer your questions. So first, to Admiral Harris, thank you for stepping up to serve as the president of NNOA, and thanks for your personal friendship, mentorship over the years. You are, I'm at the point now. I'm closing in on 56, and I kind of break people down. There's good people, and maybe not so good people, and that's it. I just kind of break them into 2 categories. You were in the truly good person category, Sink. So I appreciate you giving of yourself and your time to this particular organization, but frankly, just to the naval service in general. So thank you. Interesting, I got to hear the discussion of the Golden 13. And of course, I'm a Marine. So, I walk by typical Pentagon, you're always in a hurry going to a meeting. And as you walk down the A ring past the very large mural of the Golden 13, both original and then as older men sitting on the deck of a battleship, sadly having lost a couple of their rank by the time that photo was taken. You kind of look and go, wow, that's interesting, and you just keep going because you're going to see the SecNav or the SecDef. And so here in the last presentation, kind of gives me pause to go do a little bit of my history, because as a naval officer, I know Frank Peterson's history, because right past the Golden 13 is a picture of Frank Peterson, Lieutenant General Frank Peterson, who was our first African-American 3-star. And then, of course, on the wall there, next to him is one of my mentors, a guy named Lieutenant General Walt Gaskin, who was my battalion commander. And I have had the privilege of having my backside chewed, professionally, politely, but it was chewed by Lieutenant General Gaskin. And so I'm going to go do a little bit of homework on the Golden 13, because here in the presentation, I should know more than I do about them, and I should know as much as I do about Frank Peterson. So I'm grateful for that reminder. What I thought I would do today is talk about the Naval Service, but specifically the Marine Corps. I mean, I'm a Marine, and a couple of experiences I had maybe over the last year, and where that may take us going forward. First, I'm a believer that you have to know your history. So just doing a little bit of homework here on, 1970, Lieutenant Johnson, Naval Academy, gets a task and reaches out some of his fellow officers, and then ultimately forms NNOA in 72 as you close in on your 50th anniversary. I was born in 65, so I was 5 years old when Lieutenant Johnson was sitting there at the Naval Academy. And I can't really fathom what challenges he had in 1970. Grew up, ignorance is bliss, right? So I grew up in North Texas, born in 65. So Lieutenant Johnson is out there attacking a problem and trying to fix a problem when I'm 5 years old, haven't even been to kindergarten yet. And here you are 50 years later, NNOA is hosting a virtual symposium, thousands of people reaching out, reaching in, trying to establish a diverse and inclusive naval service. I'm an infantry officer, so my focus today, before I turn it over to question and answers, it's about warfighting. This is about warfighting. And I say that every time I speak. You see the images in Afghanistan, and you look at the past 20 years where Marines, sailors, and all other service members too, by the way, have fought, have bled, have died. Iraq, doesn't matter. World War II, Korea, Vietnam. We are a warfighting organization. Whether you're haze gray and underway on a warship of the United States, or whether you're in the back of a CH-53, or whether you're walking on the ground, or whether you are driving one of our amphibious reconnaissance vehicle, advanced reconnaissance vehicles, this is warfighting. And the reason I say that, and I get in trouble here and it gets recorded, and that's okay, because the worst that happens to me is I go home early, and I'm okay with that. Sink's heard me say that before. When I get told to go home, okay, just don't get between me and the boat ramp, because I'm a fisherman. This isn't about being woke or any of the other stuff. What this is about is war fighting. And you cannot sustain yourself as the premier warfighting organization in the world, the U.S. Naval Service, if you don't have access to the totality of American talent. And so this isn't about being altruistic or anything else. This is about, we have to sustain the warfighting capability of this organization, because in this country are Blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, it doesn't matter, Native Americans, everyone is protected by the force that's out there on the pointy end, that's out there at the warfighting edge. So that warfighting edge has to be the best that it can be. It cannot be the best that it can be unless you can gain access to all of America's talent. And if you have a segment of society, and it doesn't matter, white, Black, Asian, Hispanic, male, female, it doesn't matter. If you have a segment of society that doesn't see a future for themselves in your organization, doesn't see a reflection of themselves in your organization, they'll go somewhere else. And then you'll lose the best logistician, the best pilot, the best intel officer, the best supply officer. You'll lose that talent to corporate America. In our case, as a naval service, you lose it to the Army, the Air Force. That's not that's not an option. So you have to demonstrate, not by your words and talking, but by your actions, that there's a future for you, a bright future in this organization. In my case, the United States Marine Corps. In our case, the United States Naval Service, to include our Coast Guard brothers and sisters. And every time you walk by, I walk by, and I literally do it, 4 times a day, Frank Peterson's photo up there. I'm thinking to myself, I just did a parade with Charlie Bolden, one of our great astronauts, Marine astronauts, 2-time shuttle pilot commander, and shuttle pilot, 2-time mission commander. And, then I look at the brand new crop of 1-star generals that we have, Brigadier General Williamson, Brigadier General Henderson. And I think to myself, okay, maybe we're moving in the right direction, but I got to be careful to not think, okay, well, we're good. We've got Tony out there, Tony Henderson, we've got Will Williamson, so we're good. Because I know that our NNOA president has called this, the year of the captains and the colonels, saying, hey, I need you all, the senior leaders of this naval service, to get engaged, to become engaged, to make us an inclusive and diverse force, because it's the totality of talent that is going to be required against a pacing threat. I mean, a real pacing threat, a peer adversary who's capable of changing the trajectory of this country. That is it's a scary thought. I mean, I'm not scared because I know the talent that we have. And frankly, I could probably just put Brigadier General Tony Henderson up against, either the Chinese or the Russians, and that would be sufficient, right? Because Tony would probably be more than enough to handle either of those, maybe both those countries at the same time. We need that talent, and we got to demonstrate it both for the American people, for ourselves, and for the protection of this country. So for me, it's all about war fighting. And I would note, in the case of the Marine Corps, that we have not gotten this right always. I think we're trying to get it right. I hope we are. I mean, I got a son who's a first lieutenant, and I hope he would be proud of the progress we're making. It's never fast enough. It's always, as a good friend of mine, Chris Shaw, told me yesterday in an email, youth seeks revolution. The old people seek evolution. Maybe we're just too tired to do it. I don't know. But what I want is something that stays. I want something that endures. Me, you. I want something that's here at the 100th anniversary of NNOA that has stayed and it's steady. And so when I look out at the threat that we currently have facing us, and I look at the challenges that we have, you got to look back to our history. People say, hey, Montford Point, look at us. That's so great. Look at what we did, congressional gold medals. And that was a brilliant moment when we did the gold medals. But let's not forget the reason why we were doing gold medals. After the Defense Reorganization Act in 47, we were the last service to integrate. And we did so by sending all of our African-American Marines to Montford Point. Not a bright, shining moment in Marine Corps history. And at the same time, this dichotomy that's always going through my head, despite that act and the badness of it, the Montford Point Marines are among, if not the most loyal, dedicated, committed Marines. So I got to think in the back of my head, how good must the Marine Corps still be if those Marines who were sent to Montford Point as a way to avoid a lawful order that came out to integrate, to desegregate, they're still committed to the Marine Corps. So that Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, that must be even more special than I thought, because that particular chapter of history, from Hashmark Johnson on up, they're still committed to the Corps despite what happened. So that gives me hope. It kind of motivates me that from where we started to where we are, forward progress should accelerate. It has to, it better. But that's the one thing that just I can't get out of my head. After that, introduction to the Corps, those Marines, the Montford Point Marines, are still so committed to their Corps. I can't explain it. I wish I understood it. I'm just going to have to take that as I'm going to have to take that on faith, that the Marine Corps has a bright future and has the ability to change and has the ability to adapt to a pacing threat using diversity, inclusion to bring in the totality of ideas and talent that we're going to need against a pacing threat, who has the ability to change our trajectory if we let them. So those are my thoughts on diversity, on inclusion, on why I think NNOA's mission is so important, and why I think we all of us, have to get behind Admiral Harris and his goals. He's got 5 that are out there. And again, this is the year of the captain and the colonel. So I'm calling on you, captains and colonels, to go down to the deck plate level, go down to the squad level, talk to your junior Marines, officer enlisted, and get them energized about this idea, this concept that is an NOA. That's your mission. And you got a lawful order from St. Harris. And trust me, he's a tough man. And if you don't follow it, then he's probably going to round up a couple of guys like me, and maybe we'll come out there and have a visit with you about why you're not executing the order that your president gave you. So I'm going to stop there and stand by for questions. Jamar, if you want to moderate, I'm not sure how you wish to do it, but again, thank you for letting me come. Sarcastically, hey, thanks for letting me follow the commandant. That was really nice of you. I would have preferred to warm up for the commandant. It would have been easier. You know, this is like, regardless of what kind of music you like, whoever the warm-up act, that's supposed to go before the main act. So just saying, Jamar, as you put this on, it's supposed to go before the main act, but hey, whatever. So I'm excited to be here, ready to take your questions and stay on your timeline. Jamar, over to you, sir.
Thank you, General, for your comments. The first question we have is, can you talk about the progress that we've made on force design and how are we shaping up and leading towards our goal for it? Over.
Yeah, I can. Force design, for those that aren't tracking, the commandant said, hey, we are not, both General Neller and General Berger, both the last 2 commandants said, we're not currently organized, trained, equipped, or postured, meaning positioned throughout the world to best deal with a pacing threat, with a peer adversary, such as China, Russia. But those are China is the pacing threat. So we looked at the threat, and China is a threat. Make no mistake. Their actions in the Indo-Pacific are not good. They have militarized islands. They have conducted unsafe passages. They are not doing actions which show that they want a free and open Indo-Pacific. And so the commandant said, we have to change. We got to get light, mobile, more lethal. We have to get a little smaller to divest of things that we can't get to the fight tonight, such as tanks, in order to invest in some really high-end capabilities that will deter conventional deterrence, integrated deterrence, will deter a pacing threat. So we're going through a change of about 10,000 Marines less, some really long-range fires, some intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, communications assets that are really resilient to jamming, and some big wing platforms that are out there that give us organic mobility, absolutely tied to our Navy shipmates. We have to have those amphibious ships. I mean, you look at what's going on in Haiti right now, in Afghanistan, that's a MEU in there. That's the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit that's in Afghanistan. They came from amphibious ships. Haiti, you got the Arlington down there, and she will provide immense relief to the people of Haiti, who God knows have had their share of challenges in the last decades. But we need the combination of the Marine Navy team forward deployed as an expeditionary force in readiness. And then finally, we're doing talent management. We're putting the right people at the right seniority, which means more senior, in the right places, firing long-range munitions, gathering intelligence about our adversary, and doing it in a disaggregated environment throughout the first island chain underneath the range of a potential adversary like China. It's going, I believe, extremely well. We're fighting a budget right now. I'm meeting every day with the Secretary of the Navy. Our brand new Mr. Del Toro is our Secretary of the Navy. And we're working the budget to see how much we can squeeze out of every dollar to get you all, us, the force we need to defend this nation against the pacing threats. I think it's going very well, but the people part of it is General Berger's focus this year. I think he told you that. He's focused on getting the right people in the right jobs to ensure that we have the right training, that we can execute this mission when stressed by a peer adversary. Does that sort of answer, Jamar?
Yes, sir.
I could talk all day on that one, but I probably shouldn't, because that's my day job. So thanks for throwing the softball. Since you put me up after the opening act, thanks for at least throwing me a softball. Let me warm up my arm.
Yes, sir. I knew you was up for the task. Next question we have is from Lieutenant Colonel Walton. She says, can you talk about the USMC policies to ensure constant promotions and opportunity throughout the years to come?
Yeah, I can.
That's Commander, and it's Lynn.
So, so Lynn, I think I actually see it. That was your question?
Yes, absolutely.
So
Correct.
Lynn, thanks for the question. Here's what I think. I'm going to give you two. So we have policies. We call them precepts, as you're well aware, sir. We have the precepts that say, you know, you must consider the following things in a board. But you know, they're just policies. I mean, we've all been on promotion boards, Lynn. I'm sure you've been on them. And when you close the door, here's what I've found. So we do the precepts, we're required to, and I think they're important. And you put the right people on the board. But here's a fallacy. And I'm pretty candid. And I think I know Sink knows this, and hopefully Jamar does, and I know Seth does. I'm just saying it. We will often, well, every board, we say, okay, we have a woman on the board, we have an African American on the board, as if we're going to go, hey, Lynn, I'm looking at a black officer's record. Hey, what do you think? I mean, that's not how that works, you know. As if you're supposed to be the spokesman for every African American officer on the board. That is a fallacy, and I think it's unhelpful. What we do is we pick people of character, put them on the board, and say, hey, you don't, whether there's a picture involved or not, you don't consider a person's race, a person's gender. Don't consider that. But what you should consider is that there is unconscious bias, and for people that say, that's a bunch of woke stuff. Hey, I talked to some steely-eyed gunfighting killers that are Marine colonels this last year, and I mean bunches of them. And I'll say a couple of them are general officers now, and not in these two cases, but other colonels who are all qualified to be general officers, every one of them. And in a couple of cases, when they were saying, hey, you know, I actually have a fitness report that's not that great. And the officer that gave it to me said, hey, you know, I got to make you 3 out of 3 because, you know, the other 2 are white. I mean, I heard that from guys who I trust, believe. That happened while I've been a Marine. So I think the way we ensure that boards are equitable is you tell that story. You give examples. I mean, the precept that's signed by the commandant in the second half carries weight, but a story from a colonel that you know, trust, and believe in, and who has, you know, a combat record that is second to none, and says, hey, I was actually told this. When you hear that, and hopefully when that word gets out through this forum, if those colonels and captains are attacking the problem and attacking the messaging, you say, holy cow, that happened? Yeah, that happened while you were a Marine, brother. That happened in the last, 20 years. That someone was told, I got to make you 3 of 3 because I'm just not comfortable putting you above 2 non-minority officers. Wow. I mean, okay, so if you don't think that there's unconscious or conscious bias that's part of somebody's record, you probably need to wake up. And so I think, Lynn, that telling that story has greater effect in the boardroom than does any precept letter. And then I'll follow it with the precept letter does tell the president of the board, and I've been the president of many boards, hey, the first time somebody pipes up about, or even discusses or tries to discuss something that's not part of the official record, unless it is beneficial to that officer, they get shut down. And I haven't seen that on any of the boards I've been on because the presidents have been pretty good. Lynn, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I'm telling you what I think.
Well, quick follow-up. Tony was my son's classmate. Okay. And so we discussed this over time. The thing that General Bogert talked about was equity, and I like that. And so as being one who's been at NRA for 49 years as a member, and also working at this, offline with Charlie Boland's my longtime friend, consistency is a thing that I'd like to see us do and not be on that sine curve, okay? Because that's what, I don't know how you make it consistency. And I like the idea of the 360 feedback, because that will tell you, like I have a neighbor who's a Marine, aviator, with a license plate that says, don't tread on me, and he's the CEO of a squadron, all right? that sends a certain signal to the folks, to your Marines. And the question will be, do I get a fair, fitness report from this person, evaluation, et cetera? And that's my point, the consistency. Thank you.
Lynn, thank you. I wrote that down, and Tony Henderson, I can't talk about the board proceedings, as you know, but I was on the board that picked Tony Henderson and Will Williamson, and proud to do it. We picked them because they were the most qualified. And Tony Henderson is a force to be reckoned with, as is Will Williamson. And we made a wise decision on both those this year. So you'll be seeing a lot of those two gentlemen. Jamar, back to you, sir. Thanks, Lynn.
Yes, sir. So the next question will come from Colonel Quentin Jones. Colonel Jones, if you could come off mute and pose your question.
Hey, good morning, sir, and congratulations on being nominated to be the ACMAC. I look forward to it. I know we've never met. Hey, I'm out here at San Bruno, California, in command of 23rd Marine. So my question to you is as it relates to some concrete examples of how we're getting after D&I. And so the background in that, CMC talked about, hey, retention is critically important to the Marine Corps and having a quality, well-rounded force, but it's complicated. And so if I hearken back to the days when your mentor, General Gaskins and General Bailey and General Bolden, they all came into the Marine Corps in a cohort of a number of African-American solid officers. And so I think General Krulak, who was up and coming around the time and then became the commandant, but under Major or then Lieutenant Colonel Frank Peterson, General Krulak appointed him to shepherd the African Americans talent coming up through the ranks. And Frank Peterson, at the direction of the commandant, did a very good job of overseeing that. And as we know, the fruits of the labor is a number of African American 3-stars within the Marine Corps. So that initiative, as all good things we do in the Marine Corps, we check the box, we got it right. Hey, we don't need to put any more effort because it's on cruise control, but somehow we fell asleep at the wheel. And now it's probably been 5 or 6 years since we've had an African-American 3-star in the Marine Corps. So there's a huge gap. We won't talk about the fact that we've never had an African-American 4-star, and that's okay because we've got a whole bunch of talent coming behind us to achieve those ranks. But as the Navy has taken a look at Task Force 1, and they've come up with a number of recommendations, over 50, I believe, what are some of the concrete examples that we are putting in place in the Marine Corps to get after D&I, to retain some of the talent that we have in the Marine Corps that we're moving out on right now and not just admiring the problem? Over to you, sir. The second piece to that is, I'll come back to you after that, sir.
Hey, Quentin, thanks for the question. And yeah, Bull Halsey for Task Force 1, we obviously took much of what Admiral Halsey did and passed it back over to Lieutenant General Williams, or Major General, I'm promoting him twice, Brigadier General Williamson, Will, and Lieutenant General Adignon, who's the head of MNRA, to say, what of those things can we incorporate? And there were a significant number of recommendations within that I think are common sense. Bull's a pretty common sense guy. But to your point about how do they lead to we had, as you said, we had a cohort. We had Willie Williams, we had Walt Gaskin, and Frank Peterson, obviously early. But then, you had Willie Williams, you had Walt Gaskin, and you had Ron Coleman kind of as a cohort all at one time. And then obviously Vince Stewart as well, for those of you know Vince, although Vince was off on a joint track doing Defense Intelligence Agency. We do have a huge talent pool now, and our most senior officer, who happens to be Black, is Mike Langley. And I'll hold here and be careful not to get ahead of anybody, but you are correct that you can't have a multi-year gap between when General Gaskin and Dora retired, his wife Dora retired out at the barracks, and then crickets, nothing. You have to have, to Lynn's point, I think, consistency in several things, and that is the issue of the general officers. it's not the general officers. It's the colonels. That is where the magic is. And that goes all the way back down to captains and majors. And yes, we're competing with industry, although I think that's a little bit of a cop out. When we say, well, Dell Computer can just pay more money and hire you away. Well, if you look at the folks who are here with us now, the majors and captains, they all can make more money. The master gunnies, they can make more. I know the master gunnies can make more money on the outside. And yet they stay. And they stay because they love what they do. It's exciting. It's different. They want to serve the country. So I don't really put a ton of stock in the fact that industry is hiring away our best and brightest. If that's true, then make your organization better so that it's so good they're willing to give up $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in additional resources to stay, because we have to build the talent pool of majors, lieutenant colonels, and colonels from which to choose the general officers. You cannot succeed when you have, in this case, if you put 3 African-American officers on a board and you do great, 33% selection rate to general officer, man, that's 10 times what it normally is. That's one. You will not build, as you said, a cohort of individuals like we had when we had, General Coleman, General Bailey, General Gaskin, General Stewart, and General Williams. You're not going to build that again. But we are currently building that cadre, but it's not the generals, it's the colonels. I'm standing by for your second question, Quentin, or second half of that question, if we got time. Jamar, you run it, but Quentin, I got time if you got time.
Just real quick, sir. So what, DNI is very hard, and not everybody's on board with it across the force. So how are we bringing aboard those officers, those senior sirs or ma'ams that don't believe that DNI is a thing, is an issue, and yet you have a number of African Americans in those units who can look up and see that it's not a priority or it's not a thing from their perspective. So how are we getting that message across from the senior executive level over?
Yeah, two ways. One, diversity inclusion is not an issue, although I think to Lynn's point, somebody like Mike Langley is ultimately just like Lori Reynolds for female issues. Lori Reynolds was often deferred to as, "Hey, Lori, you got to be our spokesperson here." I'm not sure that's it. The sexual assault. That's not largely a female problem because the numbers are 90-10. So diversity inclusion, that's not an African American problem. That's a everybody problem. So again, going back to boards, I'm not sure that saying I'm going to pick a black officer and say you got the football here, make this thing work. I'm not sure that's going to work. I think the way that you ensure that the whole team gets on board is it starts with the commandant, and he's done it and continues to say it. But then it goes down to the EOS, the executive offsite, which is the 3 stars. We just huddled up in Annapolis about 2-3 weeks ago, and we will do it again at the General Officer Symposium, the GOS, here in September, last week of September, in Virginia. And you make the general officers go out there and explain what the commandant's vision is. And I do think you're out there in charge of an infantry regiment. It's about war fighting. If you want Marines to get on board with what diversity inclusion is, it's about war fighting. It's not about being nice and about whatever, although equity is how you get there, right? Equity is a requirement to get to the end state, which is a diverse and inclusive organization, because you need them. You need that talent pool to go after a pacing threat. I got a son who's a first lieutenant, right? He's in the Pacific. If something happens with a pacing threat now, he's a logistician. He will fight tonight. And I understand if the enemy has a great day and he does not come home. I get that, right? That would be the worst possible outcome that day. What I can't abide is if he doesn't come home because he didn't have what he needed, because the Marine Corps and individuals in it didn't accept that diversity inclusion brings in the talent pool from which to pick and draw the best talent to support my son. So, so I think you do it the way I'm doing it today, and you hope you mandate that guys like me who have been fortunate, overly fortunate, to be in a leadership position, that they explain to and require the Marines to follow their commandant's guidance, and then that people like me in a senior position, explain to people what diversity inclusion is and is not, and why it's important to the war fight that we're all about to go. Because believe me, fight's on. If you don't believe that, you're not watching, you're not reading intel. Fight's on. That's a long way of saying it comes down to leadership, explaining and convincing people that this is an important aspect of one of the many aspects of our warfighting capability that may not scratch the itch. If you, not you, but if an individual is looking for, hey, I'm looking for a declaration that we were jacked up from 1947 through here, you may not get that. Because what I want is on the 100th anniversary of NNOA, for people to look back at this tape and go, what the heck are those guys talking about? Really? That happened? Holy crap. Well, those guys were, that's what I'm looking for. And I'm willing to take the, not from you, but take the body blows so that, when my son's son is a first lieutenant, hopefully having given his father less grief than mine gave me, then he's having to read books to figure out what the heck I'm talking about, because that's just not a thing. That's a long-winded answer, but I think that's like central to what we're talking about. I'm going to stop talking there before I run the clock out on you. And then shoot me an email or phone call, and we can keep this dialogue going, because you just hit on a critical theme of how do you get everybody on board. And you won't get everybody on board, right? Free country, some people aren't going to buy it. But we're a Marine Corps. Commandant said step out. So take any 5 seconds you want and step out. I mean, it's the beauty of the Marine Corps.
Thanks, sir. I appreciate your time. It's a warfighting imperative, and I think we're going to get after it. And I'll be more than happy to talk to you offline with thoughts over.
You call me anytime. We can talk about how California's holding up and how you're doing out there with your regiment. Jamar, fire away.
Yes, General. So I believe we have time for one more question. The next one will come from Major Ashley Wallace. Major Wallace, if you could come off mute and pose your question.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Ashley, I'm doing well. How about you?
Good, sir. This has been, it's a great discussion, especially since I've been tasked with trying to figure out DE&I for MFR. So this is great discussion. One of the things we've been talking about a lot is, like Commandant said, these structural impediments specifically within our manpower systems. And Captain earlier talked about the fitness reports and how we can better look at those and revamp those to where we're getting this 360 view. I did a little bit of research last night on the CMC's Innovation Challenge, because when he first posted his policy letter on DE&I, that was one of the first things that popped into my head. It was a big deal when I was a first lieutenant and captain, and it's kind of gone, at least I haven't seen much visibility on it recently. But as we look to see, like, how do we bring the not so heard voices in many different forms, whether they're just the junior Marines or the more diverse voices, how do we bring those up to the table to be included in all different realms? One of those things could be the innovation challenge, and if we look at these structural impediments in our manpower systems, I'm not sure if that really fits the innovation challenge per se, but this is where we get creative and we think about what resources do we have available? How do we aptly use those resources to solve our problems? There's so many different discussions, whether they're in the smoke pits, at the chow tables. Man, this could be a great thing. Why don't we do this? Why doesn't nobody see my way of doing this? How do we get those discussions front and center so we could actually flush them out?
Hey, so actually, here's one for you that's very concrete, because I've been thinking about this one for a while, talking to General Adignan about it. And technology helps with this, right?
Yes, sir.
So bear with me, right? I'm a Texas guy. I got a Texas public education. I paid $4 a credit hour, $60 a semester, right? That was my college tuition, no joke. So I got my money's worth, not much more. Here's my analogy on this. If you're driving down the road and you're speeding and you come in one of those zones where they got the speed limit sign up that says speed limit 35, your speed 45. What does 99% of the population do?
Blow past it.
No, they slow down. I mean, they tend to slow down. So, yeah, okay, well, there's the 1%. So note to self, do not drive with that. Most people slow down. You see that, hey, speed limit's 35, your speed this, and people, slow down. Maybe because they really didn't, maybe because they didn't know they were speeding, or maybe they don't want to get caught. I'm looking for the result, right? I'm looking for the safe speed.
Mm.
So here's what I would like to see on fitness reports. If first, I think most people are decent people. Sometimes it's like a loud cell phone talker, right? Loud cell phone talkers don't know they're loud cell phone talkers, but they are. They're like super loud, but they don't think they're talking loud. So what I would like to see on fitness reports, I want to be able to scan my reports that I've written and manipulate data and break it out and say, where have I put all the women I ranked of captains, majors, colonels, where did they fall out? Holy crap. Every woman I've ever ranked was in the bottom third of my profile.
Mm.
Maybe I better do a little introspection, a little know yourself, seek self-improvement. What if every black officer that I ever ranked, none of them were in the top third? Holy cow. I think I got a problem. I think maybe there's an unconscious bias going on. If I can do that, I think the majority of people will actually look at that and fix themselves.
Mm.
When a senior can look at that and say, hey, Eric, let's have a discussion. I noticed this. I'm not trying to undo or it's not undo, it's unlawful command influence, because the fitness report is yours to write. I can't influence it. But what I can do as the reviewing officer, I can write my own comments. What if I could look at that and go, you've never put a woman in the top third, ever. You've never put a Hispanic officer in the top third, and you've ranked 37 Hispanic officers. I think that's a powerful tool. I think the vast majority of officers and those staff officers who write reports would take a look and go, I need to check my six here and evaluate myself. And when a report, that's step one. And then the second step is when reporting seniors or reviewing officers, pardon me, can look at that and you can say, that's odd. Wonder why that is. Let me take a closer look at that command climate. Let me take a closer look. Now people will say, see, here we go. We're about to do quotas again. That's bull crap. Oh,
Mhm.
sorry. Sink, can I say crap on your VTC? I just said it twice. Sorry. So I will keep it at the crap level. But that's bull crap. What it is I want to know what's going on in my command.
Mhm.
And maybe the fact is that those were the right numbers and the right reports. And hey, I agree with you. These officers were really good. But then if that's the case, then you say, well, that doesn't seem to be like mathematically feasible. So what is it about our training, education, recruiting? What is it that's causing that to happen so that, we're not building Will Williamsons, we're not building Jerry Carters, we're not building Tony Henderson's or the next Walt Gaskin. What is it about our system that's not letting that happen? I think it serves a twofold purpose. Innovation is a huge part of that because that's easily done. So
Yes,
you can
sir.
manipulate your data. I mean, it's easily done. And
Yes, sir.
it costs that much money. So General Adignan has embarked on trying to modernize manpower.
Mhm.
That is the thing that I would like to see. Unless I get in trouble in the next 6 weeks, that's something that I'll work with General Adignan to do, because that's a tool I want to check myself. I mean, there's a spotter down in the pits when you fire, right? You don't just fire and go, oh, I think I hit the target. There's a spotter down there, a little teamwork here, telling you, hey, you're out of the black at 2 o'clock and you're high. Okay, well, that means I got a little bit of right windage here. That's my thoughts. Actually, I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
It absolutely did, sir. I think the technology piece is something we're simply not leveraging enough. And I think we have the tools, so to say. We just have to apply them correctly.
Yeah, people are. I believe this. People are generally good, but you got to let them know if they're speeding, right? You got to have a calibrated speed gun that says, "Hey, man, you're speeding." Most people.
Don't worry, sir. I do slow down when I see those. I absolutely do.
Okay.
Thanks,
I'm
sir.
gonna take on your word. Hey, I think I'm over, Jamar, and I apologize. But look, these are important questions. And you can't just yes, no, and get off the stage. I mean, these are uncomfortable questions because we got an uncomfortable past. And what we're trying to do, and we're going to do it on the backs of captains and colonels for our president's guidance, is we're going to have a comfortable future in 50 years when people are, again, looking back on, what, really? Wow, I didn't know that happened. Good. I mean, you want to know your history, but I'm glad you don't have to deal with it, right? I'm glad that you haven't had to fight through this. But we have a long way to go when, again, I have colonels who I respect and trust, who say, hey, this happened to me while I was in the Marine Corps, the same Marine Corps you've been in, Smith. This happened when I was in this Marine Corps. That gives me pause. And the person that tells that story can't be them, because then, hey, they're just the angry black officer who's mad about something. It's got to be me that tells that story. It cannot be them. And these are the, oh, hey, we're getting, into touchy stuff. Well, hey, welcome to reality, right? If you're not willing to have an inconvenient, uncomfortable conversation, then, frankly, go home, because you're not going to be part of the solution. You got to have an uncomfortable conversation here. And that's probably not on that officer to tell his or her story. That's probably on me to tell that story. So I would ask those colonels and captains that the NNOA president has kind of called all hands on deck. You go tell that story and tell it to your friends and have them tell the story. And then that is how you level set what's happening, and you make sure that it doesn't happen in the future. And that's how you build a future that in 50 years, people don't look back and don't even remember these kind of problems because they haven't existed for 50 years. That's how you do it, right? It's one person at a time. We're a people business. And again, I would close with, hey, this is about war fighting for me, because I got skin in this game with a son, as do many of you, or a daughter. I want my Marines to be surrounded by the best talent that we have. You can't exclude any part of society, or you will not have that talent, and you will not be as successful on the battlefield as you might have been. That translates to casualties of young Marines and sailors. So there you go. That's what I think. And thanks for letting me come and offer opinions and be as candid as I know how to be. And I'm grateful for it to Admiral Harris and Jamar, to you for moderating, especially when I'm from Texas. I talk a lot, come by it honestly. You got to talk to my mom, but these are my thoughts, and I look forward to having this discussion as many times as you'll let me come talk to you. Jamar, I'll shut up and pass to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for those comments. And actually, I was a little premature on time. We have you for about another 15 minutes. So I appreciate your talk.
Fire away.
Questions.
Well, I got my closing done now, so we can run all the way through the clock on questions, and I'll be shorter, I promise.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The next one will come from Colonel Chris Shaw. Colonel Shaw, if you're on the line, you can come off mute and pose your question.
Hoorah, General, can you hear me?
Hey, Judge, I hear you well. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, sir. Sorry that my camera's not working. Pentagon is shutting me down.
A personal issue, so.
It's all good, sir. Well, again, thank you for coming out. But the question is what advice would you give junior leaders to talk to their junior Marines, but also talk to senior Marines, senior leaders about D&I issues? Like, how should they go about that? I know very tactical, but I think that'd be very useful for this crowd, sir.
Chris, great question. DE&I. Okay, let's start there. Hey, first you got to know it may be an uncomfortable conversation, but here and again, being very candid. Okay. And Chris, I'm telling my story, and you know the story, the Houston Tillotson College story. That's true. When I was the officer selection officer in Austin, Texas, I was a brand new first lieutenant, or I was almost promoted captain, just come off the first Gulf War, hoorah, Company XO. And I would go recruit at Houston Tillotson College, a historically black college in Austin, Texas. I was the only white face on campus, about 700 students. And you talk about an uncomfortable white guy on the campus. Hey, that was my issue, right? So I'm down there recruiting. And I still to this day, I cannot remember if it was Alpha Phi Alpha or Kappa Alpha Psi, the fraternity. Several of the members, they're like, hey, what are you doing? What are you recruiting? Like, I'm recruiting for the Marine Corps. And they said, why are you recruiting here? I said, well, the Marine Corps is committed to to diversity. So, I'm here because it's a large Black population. And they're like, what? I said, well, it's a large Black population. They said, you can say Black louder. We know we're Black. It's okay. I mean, it was very, so I learned over 3 years to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? But the minority officer in this case, when you're talking, remember that, the guy who's me, who grew up in Plano, Texas, who, didn't know there was supposed to be this or that. And I just, I mean, my mom was a checker in a grocery store. My dad is a box salesman. He's passed away now. So it's not like we were running around in high society circles. That's going to be an uncomfortable conversation, likely, for that senior or junior officer. So just, or junior enlisted, so just go have a candid conversation because they want it, but somebody's got to break the ice. So that's one. And you got to be candid about experiences, people and why it matters and what you see. Hey, sir, I know you think that it's all good within the company, but, and there's a risk, right? There's a risk. Oh, here we go. Chris Shaw complaining again about the command climate, complaining again about, there is a risk to that. But if you're a reporting senior, reviewing officer, and your friends are watching out for you, or at least one of them is, I think it's a risk worth taking. And I know, Chris, you take it, and for those of you who don't know, Chris has Jamaican roots. He's an incredibly talented Naval Academy graduate and staff judge advocate. And when he speaks, people listen, I listen. So I think you just start the conversation, Chris, by being very candid. And remember that the person receiving it, I believe that they want to receive it, but they are more uncomfortable than you are often. And you can help facilitate a more comfortable conversation, just like in the fall of 1991, after the first Gulf War, students at Houston-Tillotson College helped me be less uncomfortable as the only white face on a campus. Because if I was the only Black face in a rifle company, I kind of think I know how you feel. Different, I understand, but in general, I kind of had that feeling too. And so I'm pretty comfortable talking about it now, because that's part of my experience. So I'm just going to keep talking about it. But does that halfway answer it, Chris? Long-winded, but the story is important.
Yes, sir. Absolutely knocked out the park. And again, I really appreciate all your efforts and your leadership in this area, sir.
Hey, Chris, good talking to you. And you're probably physically right down the hall from me right now, so maybe I'll see you in the hallway.
Hoorah, sir.
Right. Thanks, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Yes, General. So our next question will come from Captain Akira Farms. Captain Farms, if you could come off mute and pose your question.
Yes, I can. Good morning, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I hear you just fine. Yes, ma'am. I hear you just fine.
Yes, sir. My question was in regards to, because I know I heard you speak on a battle with the budget. So I wanted to know if our budget is able to support increased joint training and joint education, because I know in all of the formal education that I've been a part of recently completed the MACTAB Comp Planners course, it seems everything is pushing for us to just be able to tie in more tightly with our Navy side, and that blue-green sync is not where it needs to be. And we have a lot of Marines who have never started on ship, me being one of them. And it's just a lack of the opportunity for that right now. And if what we're saying is that the future fight is going to put us in that position, are we positioned to increase that joint training and increase joint education opportunities so we can be a tighter team moving forward?
So first, you are now getting orders to the USS Arlington. Like right now, I'm going to change your orders, and you're going to now. It is sad that you haven't been on a ship, and that's on us, because for 18 years we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, and proudly so. But we have to return to our amphibious naval roots, and that's what the commandant's trying to do in concert with his shipmate, the CNO. And I do it in concert with my shipmate, Vice Admiral Khan, who's the N9, the Navy version of CD9. There is money, but is it everything that we want for training, joint training, blue-green workup training? No, it's not. That's why we have to have the the requisite number of ships that offer you the opportunity, Muse to prepare, Muse to train. Now remember, that has to be in balance with all of the other parts of the fleet, right? I mean, submarines matter. So we can't just worry about us. We are a naval force, but I believe amphibs are a vital force in day-to-day competition, and having enough ships to give you the opportunity to be out, to train, to get ready for the next crisis is important. We're doing some pretty important things in terms of naval command and control. At Fleet Forces Command, where my previous shipmate, Vice Admiral Kilby, is now the deputy, they are working with 2MEF on just finished large scale exercise 21, LSE 21, out at, well, really globally. But, Fleet Marine Force specific and PAC Fleet, they are doing more than exchanging officers. They are building integrated battle staffs. That is happening. We're using a thing called Project Overmatch, which is the naval tactical grid that enables us as a naval force to operate in the Pacific or any austere environment when we're cut off from satellites and from space. That is happening, and there are dollars that if you gave me additional money, I could spend every bit of it on capabilities, because I would get them faster. So it's not that we have insufficient funds, but we always want to be there faster, because what if the threat happens tomorrow? I would rather have had the money today. So I would give you, I'd give you some more than just hope. I'd give you some confidence that we are investing in these capabilities for the Naval Tactical Grid. We're investing in truly integrated command teams that are out there operating today, because you can't wait for the war to start and then build a team. You build the team and you train it today. And then as we work through the shipbuilding to make sure we have enough amphibious ships so that Marines have the opportunity to be underway, so that we don't have 6-month or a year gaps between expeditionary units on East or West Coast. That's not, that is a risk that the combatant commanders absorb, and I know they don't want to. And we're working to build the best balanced fleet we can, which includes a robust amphibious fleet, so that we take the capabilities we're building now. You just saw a naval strike missile, right? We're shooting a missile in excess of 100 miles from a robotic vehicle in order to allow or to enhance fleet maneuver. We just did that out in Hawaii, large scale exercise, 2 missile tests. We've already done a previous one. Hit a ship target at range to enable fleet maneuver. That is naval integration, sister. That is good stuff. And that is happening. I'm not talking about it. That's not PowerPoint. That just happened. There's a video coming out. I mean, so I feel pretty good about it. I hope you do too, but we got to get you on a ship.
Yes, sir. Definitely looking forward to some of those, at least the education opportunities as well. So I know we can't afford to throw everyone on the ship, just working together to build that team like you talked about. So thank you for that, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, General, for your definitely comments and just giving us those expired words. At this time, I'll turn it over to Rear Admiral Harris for his closing comments.
Well, thank you very much, Jamar, and thank you, General. Again, a great conversation, discussion, and we in NOA really appreciate being a part of the team. During the discussion, about well, there are people that wanted ship change. It reminded me of when I was lieutenant, and I was a first tour department head, chief engineer on a little frigate operating in Desert Storm, and we had a great CO that trained me and others and got prepared for the war. And he went on to be a mentor of mine and an advocate for me, on through my career. Well, when he saw me going to be the executive officer on the first destroyer to have women on the crew, he warned me of how that was never going to work and how bad that was going to be for the Navy and blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, sir, I don't think so, but I'll find out. I haven't served with women at sea. And I found out what he said was not true. In fact, it was the opposite. I think we've become a better force for raising the status of women on board ship. He died out as a Navy captain. He's still a friend of mine, but it reminded me of an old saying, dinosaurs became extinct for a reason. And there are going to be dinosaurs. There are going to be people that will never get it, no matter what, no matter why, no matter how. And guess what? They'll become extinct because we got too many important things to do. And it's about getting the best team, the best talent, and have everybody feel like they're part of it in order for us to make progress. General, thank you so much.
Sink, thank you, sir. And man, I'm glad you said that, because you will not get everybody on the team. That's okay. Baseball teams only have 9 people playing. A lot of people in the stands, a lot of them complaining, but there's only 9 people on the field. So you bring the ones you can, and the ones you can't, that says more about them than about you. So, man, I'm really glad you said that, because you are spot on, my friend. And I look forward to supporting you in any way that I can, now and when I'm retired, fishing down in Key Largo. So you, sir, are a great president of this organization, and we're all muted up. If we unmute and applaud you right now, it'll probably collapse the system. But you, sir, deserve a round of applause for your work, and I'm proud to call you my friend. So thanks for letting me be here, Sink, and standing by for anything you may wish me to do. Over.
Thank you, shipmate. I'll see you in Annapolis and before.
See you up there, brother.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen, for those remarks. We're going to go ahead and take a 15-minute break and start up the next session after that. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Lieutenant Colonel Thomas again. Before you get up to go get your coffee or beverage, I wanted to highlight that we're giving away some things during our breaks throughout the symposium. Yesterday, we had a book winner. We have a random book winner today, and that is Captain Carmela Shivers. She's going to be the winner of a book called 5 Strategies for Resilient Living by Dr. Carl Barnes and David Brown. So congratulations to you, Captain Shivers. We'll be in touch to figure out where we can send that book to you. Secondly, I'd also like to announce that as we celebrate our 50th year, we're very proud of the NNL Way logo, but we also want to think about what a logo for the next 50 years might be. So consider this the official launch of the NNL Way logo redesign contest. It's going to go throughout the next year. Winners are going to be announced at the symposium prior to the symposium for next year. So keep that in mind. Get your creative juices flowing. What kind of logo would you like to see for NNOA for the next 50 years? And finally, come back about 5 minutes before our next panel so we can run a couple of games and again, continue to give away some stuff to those of you that are sitting with us and participating and enjoying this symposium. Thanks.
And one more thing, Colonel Thomas, again, thank you for your leadership throughout this. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote, and don't forget to nominate. Don't forget to nominate people for positions. We have 4 of them open that we need hard chargers doing. And lastly, hey, tonight at 1800, we've got our first SES panel in the history of NNOA, as far as I know. You don't want to miss it. Please come and join us. 1800.
Afternoon. Is everybody ready to start game time? I see we have 4 people currently joined.
This is General Bill Seeley. Can you hear and see me okay? Because I can't see my own video to see if whatever I have in the background or anything.
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the information is in chat, but also at the top of the screen. Anyone wants to join, it's www.kahoot.it.
Hey, Kawan,
Yes, sir.
Admiral Harris here. I went on the portal to vote. They only had one name for me to cast a vote on. I thought we had more open positions, and I think we had 4. Is there something I'm missing?
Sir, yes, we do. We will come offline. I'm texting you now, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I see we've got some competition going. Let's go. Come on, come on. Don't be nervous. Give it one more minute and then we'll start the game. So we heard yesterday that the Navy's questions were a little too easy. So yeah, we were also told that the Marines are really sharp on history, that you guys are really, really sharp. So we wanted to make it interesting today. So we'll see how it goes. Before we get started, if I can just ask one question, do we have any first-time symposium attendees that are on? If we do, just raise your hand so we can kind of see everybody pop up to the top of the screen. Well, welcome. Thank you for attending our symposium. We're super excited to have you. Okay, it looks like that's what we have. We've got quite a few people on, so everybody get ready. Try your best. You can do this. This is a multi-select question. Colonel John Glenn was, and you make the selection on your cell phone. Remember, multi-select, so could be more than one. He was a famous senator, first American to orbit the Earth, and the oldest man in space. Okay, let's see how we did. It's like Timmy, some first position. Okay, next question. Which doctor received an NNOA award at the 2010 symposium? Okay, this was an easy one. Let's see how many people get it. Ah, that's pretty good, pretty good. Yes, yesterday this was a Navy question and yeah, it's about the same. Okay, let's see who. Timmy's still in first position. Okay. What is Sergeant Major Gilbert Johnson's nickname? Hash mark. And that's because of the stripes on his sleeve. I think he served in 2 other services prior to serving in the Marines, and he had more stripes on his sleeve than any of his trainers. So that's why they called him Hash mark. Ooh, Timmy's on fire. What does NNOA TAT stand for? Okay, that one was too easy, but you guys have been paying attention. Very good. Okay, Timmy's not giving up that spot, so somebody's gonna have to come for her. All right, Marines. If a Marine was sent to the brig, where will they be going? I don't think he knows. Okay, who said the commandant's office? Okay, next question, get ready. Which of these terms is the slang term for Marine?
It's not Uncle Sam's misguided children.
I think that's it, sir. Oh, wow, that obviously was way too easy.
Well, there was a movie.
Who was the first Marine aviator and the father of Marine aviation? I'm going to go with Richie Cunningham. Oh, wow. Okay, the Marines do know their stuff. Okay. When was the Marine Corps emblem adopted and by who? So what year and who is the person who adopted it? Ooh, okay. Double points. What was the name of the NNOA softball team that won 3 consecutive championships at NPS? Gonna give you a little bit longer on this one, okay? But hey, no Googling, no chatting with Admiral Harris.
Lots of players in the house.
Uh-oh. Competition,
right.
everybody. She's putting it out there, competition.
The president, with the president having the winning story, which I always can tell. Next time. Very funny story.
Oh my goodness.
I had to channel my inner Denise and say, what would Denise name that team?
All players in the house got that right. They got it right.
They tried to break us up too because we won these championships, but we were diverse because we had one young blonde-haired white woman who was our center fielder.
All right.
Oh, that's not true. He won. We were fully loaded bases, and if you think the president can't run, I can pretty much replay for you blow by blow. He was like tornado.
It's not
Brought
that
us all home, and we won.
It's not that I can't run; it's that I can't stop.
Oh,
that too. You went quick, but it doesn't matter. We won. We were champions because of you.
Okay. Oh, who is the only Marine to receive 5 Navy Crosses? Wow. Okay. All right. That's our last question. Timmy's still in first place. Let's see what happens. On June 27, 2012, the Congressional Gold Medal was awarded to. Oh, very good. And let's see the results. Okay.
Navy person wins.
Woman power.
Yeah, Navy retirees, speak up.
Woo!
Okay, Marines. All
Marines.
right.
But I am the daughter
Guys
of a
gotta step
Marine and
up.
my spouse is a Marine, so you know.
Oh.
Hey,
Great job, Timmy. Great job.
Hey, I don't have that skill. I'm just knowledgeable.
Thank you. And that concludes our second game of the week. So, okay, all righty.
Right there. Is that? No, the little mic, the thing that's on.
And we're preparing for the next, so I will just share screen.
And then you've got my other one up.
You just turn the camera off. What do you do? Yeah. What'd you do?
Good afternoon, General Endicott. This is
Camera
this-
back. You turn the camera off.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
You're muted, Seth.
I'm sorry. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started as the team works with General Nethercott's staff to bring her up on camera. It's truly an honor for me to present this portion of the symposium, which is what we call our professional development part of the program. We have just a wonderful panel. I know them all personally, and I know General Henry was with us last year and comes back again this year to just provide some words of wisdom and take some questions and answer and provide answers to a lot of the questions that we have as junior officers looking to put things into our kit bag to just make us better. So without any further ado, I know you have all their bios, but I'd like to just personally introduce Major General Seeley. I had a great opportunity to talk to him yesterday here at BGSOC, and I've known him, and he's attended NNOA conferences in the past, but just to have him on the line to kind of share some words of wisdom with us. As I mentioned also Major General Henry, who was with us last year and comes back this year, just a great proponent of the NNOA. And then Brigadier General Nethercott. I believe this is her first time with us, but just a phenomenal officer and that I think will be really helpful to this group. So without any further ado, what I'd like to do is turn it over to the panel members to offer about 5 minutes of any words of wisdom, and then we'll go right into our Q&A period. So I'll turn it over to Major General Seeley, and then he'll pass it on to Major General Henry. Sir, over to you.
Okay, hey, sir. Thank you very much, and hopefully everybody can hear me and I've got good communications for video. And of course, my good friend Dimitri there online, and some other familiar faces, Eric and Jabbar. So also good to see you. And Admiral Harris, I've never met you. I think I met you in person a couple NOAs ago. So thank you very much to the organization to come back. Hey, Julie, I also see you online. So looks like comms are working. So we're good. We got a face. Quick intro about this it's a leadership panel. And I guess the one thing I'd offer is that the leadership, especially now, is a full contact sport, right? So we're in interesting times now. I think that whether or not you're in the military or civilian and you're working in corporate industry or what have you, just with all that's going on, just from internationally to domestically to everything, we really need leaders who are engaged and who are vested in their employees. Who are willing to put themselves out front, and I say that only because I recently left command of an organization, and as I kind of took over a year or so ago, and like any good commander, any former leader, hey, what were things that the last commander did right? What can I do different to improve? If there's such a thing as morale and all of the good things that organizations have from a behavior standpoint. And the one thing that stuck out that I've seen as a trend over time is that leaders, in some cases, the more senior they get, they retreat back behind their desks, and all of a sudden it's leadership, and the desk becomes their bunker. And if you don't have a good rapport with the people that are coming in to brief those senior leaders, then it becomes like a bunker, because they feel they have to shoot out from behind the desk, and those coming in to see the commander or the leader or the CEO have to shoot into the bunker. And I found that really, kind of interesting, because I started this, I saw this in the organization that I inherited, and it was like, okay, I've got to get out there and start, grab it's coffee cup leadership, right? It's get out from behind the desk, go out, see everybody, talk to all your employees. Every single employee of an organization, especially now with COVID and all the challenges that could be happening at home or the office, and and so forth, need leaders who are engaged. So, that includes the cleaning crew that comes in, to help sterilize and disinfect rooms, all the way to my senior leaders, XOs, operations officers, and the like, to keep the larger organization running. Everybody is treated with dignity and respect. And, I see them as equals. They just have different jobs. And I think that turn, that approach, that at least that I follow, okay, to get out, meet, engage, stay dynamic, it's a full contact sport, has enabled me to have some, I would say, some success, at various organizations. That's a quick down and dirty. I'll leave it at that. And I'll turn over to my good friend, Dimitri Henry. Sir, over to you.
Bill, good to see you, brother. Julie as well. So Admiral Harris, thanks again for having me, and for the whole NNOA team. I have some prepared remarks, because that's what we do down at CENTCOM. We make sure we prepare some remarks. So I am gonna go through them, because I actually prepared these remarks. I didn't have somebody write it for me, but I want to cover some specific things, just so give you something to think about as you answer or as you ask questions, and it'll help you understand or somewhat understand what my frame of reference is, and the context of the answer that you're going to get. So I want to start by first giving you a bit of my own background, what made me who I am, and what shaped my view of the world. I'm doing this to provide you some perspective on what answers you may get from me, and what comments I may make along the way. My background matters, where I'm from matters, and that helps to put things in context. And you'll know as I go through this why I'm saying what I'm saying. I'm 58 years old. I'm a child of the 60s and 70s from a rural, dirt poor beginning, the son of a single mom with 5 brothers and sisters. Calvert, Texas is my hometown. Right now it has about 1,200 or so people. It has a train track that divides the town between blacks and whites, just as it did when I was in grade school and high school. Everyone knew their place, or so it was expected that we knew our place. I graduated 3rd in my class with a grade point average of 93.4. I enlisted in the Marine Corps a little over 40 years ago. My MOS was not combat arms. My MOS had no women, My MOS had less than 2% of people that looked like me. The first unit I was assigned had no women. It had one officer that looked like me, a second lieutenant who was a Mustanger. And the first ship I sailed on had no women. The second ship had 10, and the third ship had over 200. So I'll leave it there and let you infer what you will, but remember some of the background I've given as we discuss operationalizing diversity and inclusion and talking about how we continue to build leaders and go about the business of leading. And finally, as I've matured as a leader of Marines, I've come to find that several things have helped me succeed or helped me be successful. And I believe that these things are also necessary if we're going to utilize and maximize our diversity to build a more lethal and credible naval force that includes all the goodness of each and every Marine and sailor that comes to the fight. Thing 1 and thing 2, mentorship and guidance. And thing 3 and thing 4 are opportunity and advocacy. Again, thank you for having me. I look forward to the discussion. Over to General Nelvicott. We cannot hear you, ma'am. General Nethercott, we cannot hear you.
This is the IT. This is the IT team. We are still working on a comms issue with General Nethercott's team. We'll ask that you continue the segment without her, but we're almost to a point where you should be able to pipe her in.
Okay, hey, General Nethercott, can you hear me? It doesn't look like she can even hear us at all.
Muted. Good afternoon, this is MPRD Power Silence. Audio visual check for General Nethercott.
We got you.
All right.
Hey, General Nethercott, I just finished with my long diatribe and I turn it over to you.
Star 6. Round 6. 6 to mute.
Yeah, can you hear us now, team?
We got you. We got you, ma'am.
Okay, I have no idea what you all have said for the last 15 minutes. I tried to read General Seeley's lips as best as I could, but I saw a lot of hand waving and a lot of coffee cup shaking, so that's where I'm joining in. That's all I've got to work on, so I'm going in blind.
We turn it over to you to tell everybody your opening comments, and then they're going to open it up for questions after that.
All right, sir. Well, if everybody can hear me, it's great to be here, and thank you for the opportunity. Apologies for our delayed start here at the depot. We had some technical difficulties on this end, not your end, but it's great to be here. So, and especially with these two gentlemen on the screen, who I think the world of. So, again, for those that I haven't met, I'm down here at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island. Showcase institution for our Corps, and I'm dual-hatted for Eastern Recruiting Region. So I have all the recruiting for enlisted and officer east of the Mississippi, to include a little RS in Germany and one in Puerto Rico. So happy when we get to questions and answers to answer any question on how we're doing on recruiting those amazingly talented Americans enlisted and officer side, and to tell you some of the things we've done here on the depot just to position some amazing role models we have in young first lieutenants and captains and lieutenant colonels and colonels, so that the recruits see role models for the future and talent across the depot. So I will pause there because I don't know what my esteemed colleagues have already said. So I will defer to the two stars, but that's what I do down here, and it's an honor and it's a blessing, and it is you pinch yourself every day when you come into work, and every time you see a graduation on Friday, knowing that the Corps and the nation is in amazing hands, and the eye-watering talent that we find and the stories that they have just rejuvenate you every Friday. So parents just started showing up today. I saw the first tram of them go by. So we'll do a motivational run with them tomorrow, show off their new Marines, and then graduate them on Friday. So again, thanks for letting me join, and I'll pause there because I don't, we'll see where the conversation takes us. And of course, General Henry, General Seeley, great to see you both, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to serve with you on this panel. And I look forward to learning as well and taking down some great notes from two gentlemen I consider mentors as well. So with that, I'll pause in the interest of everybody's time, and thanks for your patience.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Seth O'Clue here. Glad you could finally work out all the audio and video and join us, because I think everybody's in for just a wonderful perspective from you. My first question, or the first question to get everybody started, is something that the Commandant talked a little bit about and Lieutenant General Smith kind of followed up on. And the question really is, it seems like the Commandant and at least Lieutenant General Smith are both in sync as far as creating a diverse Marine Corps because of the warfighting capability that it gives us. And clearly that's the message from the top. I'm interested in your perspective on how that message is permeating through where you guys sit and maybe a couple of layers below you. How is that message resonating, and what are you seeing as the reactions from that? And we can start, whoever wants to take it first, sir, or ma'am.
We'll let Bill do it since he's a senior man on the.
Oh, I see how it is now. Okay. Well, I think that the public message that all the senior leaders in the Marine Corps are putting out is resonating. I think that, I think for the most part, senior leaders, and that's the senior enlisted as well, to its general officers, its other senior leaders, civilians, we're pushing, we're carrying the message that we believe that diversity is, in fact, the true secret to success in the future as an organization. From a warfighting perspective, as an organization, just in terms of just functioning day in, day out with that, and that's not just, and that includes, I would argue, not just diversity in what we see, right? So from an African American perspective, I'm an Asian American perspective, a woman's perspective, et cetera. Whoever we bring into the mix, that is, I would say, culturally different, but also diversity in thought and diversity in where we all come from. And how we were raised, because we all do contribute to the organization. Now that's on the good side, right? So the bad side is that we're still having, I think, as large institutions, we still have a problem, I think, with recruiting and finding that diverse talent into the organization. And I say this because I just left my command, which is the Joint Forces Staff College, and it's wonderful and it's great. Except that I only have, out of all my faculty now, teaching faculty, I only have 2 women. That's it, right? And so here on one side, the military tells me, and rightfully so, hey, it's about diversity, it's about inclusion, it's about women in peace and security studies, right? That's part of one of the programs that we run, but I only have 2 women. At the same time, all of my current senior mentors, right? We know what those are, that help also support my organization. I have no women. I've got to go out and actively recruit and find, okay, where are those women general officers or senior leaders who have retired that I can get on, if you will, a board to be a senior mentor, right? And to include, and if I look at people of color, I only have one senior PhD faculty who's a man of color. He's a man of color, right? African American, former Army officer, PhD. That's it. So we started looking at when I was there to all right, so I get it. All right, I got it. And I'm not saying that, it's because we're exclusionary. The problem was that those who applied for our positions were not of color. They were not, historians, military historians, operations analysts, and so forth, because we're looking for a specific niche. So how can we do better And this was started while I was there, to go ahead and recruit and find those. So just like I would argue that in Julie's case, where she has to go out, okay, and find officers at various different places, we've initiated programs like, well, maybe we need to go look for those historians in the historical Black colleges or other universities that have, I would say, more talent pool, okay, that's diverse, that we can at least put brochures, talk to people, hey, would you consider finishing your PhD and coming to work for us and teach with us, for us? So that's why I would say a little bit of the good and bad there. Thoughts, comments from the board?
Hey, Seth, I have something to say on it, but I want to make sure that I go back to the question again. So can you give that question one more time? I wrote down what I want to say, but I want to make sure that I approach it the right way, if that's okay with you. Over.
Yes, sure, absolutely. So the Commandant, and both the Commandant and Lieutenant General Smith were very clear about the need for diversity in the Marine Corps, not just for diversity's sake, but the fact that it gives us the warfighting capability, the end state that we're looking for. A more diverse Marine Corps means a better warfighting force. And they are in lockstep when it comes to that. The question was, how is their view from the very top permeating down to your level, as you see it, and maybe a couple of layers below you? Is everybody getting the message, and are they all in lockstep, or do you see kind of division in the ranks? Over.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to catch that last piece. I think General Seeley said that, we do see it coming down. But I'll tell you this, and I certainly, I'll be blunt with you. I'm not sure that it's permeating, right? The senior leaders have to own it, have to be willing to do what's necessary in order to ensure that the Commandant's guidance is carried out. And, I talk to my peers. Me and General Seeley talk literally every night. I consider texting talking. And it's literally every night, multiple times. And it's typically about diversity and inclusion, but it's always about leadership. And it's always about how do we get better, which is what the Commandant's message is. I mean, heck, I got some peers, and I call peers any general officer, that will tell you what's wrong with us. We just fought in Iraq. We just fought in Afghanistan. We're doing well. What are we doing so wrong that we need to do something different, right? Those are people that are wearing a uniform now, not just those that have retired and are that proverbial dinosaur that I heard discussed with Lieutenant General Smith. We got folks that just don't want to do this, and the key to it, though, is not just diversity. The key is inclusion. That's an idea. Hey, you brought me to the dance, but you never freaking danced with me. You brought me here. I'm leaning up against a wall, and I haven't danced one bit at this dance. And that's really, I think, where we are right now. Is we're doing some of the things to get at it. So you start looking at numbers. Certainly not right now. The numbers don't look right, but you look at it, and there was a discussion last with General Smith, and they named off like 4 or 5 3-stars that we had at one time that were minorities. The discussion, what it didn't talk about was how many of them weren't minorities, and then how many of them coming behind them weren't minorities. This isn't a minority problem. This is a majority problem or an issue. I shouldn't say it's a problem. It's an issue. I certainly ain't going to solve it, and neither is General Nethercott, and neither is General Seeley. We're part of it, but it's a majority leaders that are going to have to help the Marine Corps do what is necessary for us to become more lethal, based on our ability to pull forward and inspire and uplift those of us who are minorities. That's the bottom line. That's how you gain an advantage over the adversary. Because the adversary, if you look at the pacing threat don't look like me. Pacing threat doesn't look like Julie, might have some characteristics of my good buddy Bill, but quite frankly, the thing that we have going for us is the diversity of thought that someone like a country boy from Texas brings to the fight. Or Julie, I'm not sure where you're from, but you're probably not from Calvert, Texas. So I'm pretty sure we have a difference, a way we approach problems. And that's a good thing because we need that if we're going to fight and win in an environment that we think we're going to be in, that we certainly expect to be in. So again, I would tell you, it's the inclusion part that really matters. You know, I was just talking to my EA before she shut the hatch, and I was telling her kind of my thoughts about all of this because I was listening to General Smith. And my thought is, I look at my own front office and I get to pick people who come into my front office. I get to put a woman in that seat. I get to put a minority in that seat. I get to put a majority in that seat. That's me. That's on me. So when we look around, and if that makes you uncomfortable, that General Henry has an office full of minorities, there's something wrong with our organization when that's what you see. Because I can tell you what I see when I walk into most of these offices. It ain't people that look like me or Julie or Bill or Major General Seeley or General Nethercott. It's the majority, and that people are very comfortable with that. So why do I need to feel like I'm uncomfortable because I have an office full of minorities? I don't, by the way. I have a pretty good mix out there, but it was also because I went out looking for the talent. I found a talent that no one's going to say that person doesn't belong there, and I pull them into the front office because people need to see that. They need to see that I'm committed to actually doing what I say I'm going to do. And quite frankly, what the Commandant has told me to do, the Secretary of Defense has told us to do, and my commander down here, General McKenzie, has told me to do. And that to me is really the crux of the issue is General Smith said, you're not going to get everybody to fall in line. I mean, that's not going to happen. But those that do have to actually show it, right? You actually have to show it. And we have an ability as a 2-star, 1-star, 3-star. Hey, you can pick who you want to work for you. You get to do that and then go do it and just be uncomfortable doing it and get it over with. So I'll pause there because, and I told you guys this last time, you need to give us more time if you're going to put me on a panel. You know, I think we're done in like 30 dang minutes. In 30 minutes, heck, me and General Seeley will monopolize all the time over General Nethercott. I'm sure she has a lot to say.
General Henry, we're going to give you your own spotlight in one of our professional leadership future forums. So stand by, shipmate. You just tasked yourself.
Hey, sir, let me tell you, you see what we're doing down here at CENTCOM. We got the President of the United States calling every 4 hours, and we're in a VTC, we being my commander. And yet I'm here because the commander believes that it's the right thing for me to be doing, and he expects me to be here. That's the kind of leadership we have to have if we're going to get through this process of change that the Commandant's trying to drag us through because we cling to old ideas and old ways of doing things. And I'm willing to do whatever is necessary, but that takes commitment. That takes a whole bunch of other things that, quite frankly, I don't know if everybody's willing to get after. So again, I'll pause there, and Admiral, I'll take that on board as long as you give me as much time as I think I need for a panel. That's all I got on this end on that question, sir.
Thank you, sir. And actually, we still have an hour, so didn't cut you back too short, but we have a little bit of time to hear you provide your sage counsel, sir. But over to you, ma'am, for any comments that you might have.
All right, so for those that don't see what I'm doing, I'm running a little bit of a mini like COC here. I got a phone on one side, I got the video up, so I'm kind of going back and forth, but that's how I'm navigating that. So sorry for the pause, but yeah, to follow up on what my esteemed colleagues have said. So we talk about talent management, and when I get the questions down here, because I'm surrounded by young, eager Marines and drill instructors and Sercos and company commanders, and they'll ask me about talent management. And what I always tell them, and then I'll tell you how we're doing on the entry-level side and kind of follow up on the analogy that General Henry uses. I want the diversity of opinion. I am a blue-collar kid from Kansas. I mean, I want to hear different sides of a story. I want to hear different options. People approach things differently. How do we solve different problems and challenges? I want as much of that as I can across the depot. And we'll talk about what we've done on the depot to kind of get after some of that, because that's what makes you a more lethal organization, a better organization, regardless of what you're doing in life, whether it's you're a Marine or you're working at Amazon. You want that diversity of thought and opinion, because that's how you solve really challenging problems, and you have that perspective. So you got to be open to that as a leader and be comfortable enough in your own skin to seek that out too. So both of the general officers mentioned it, and that's kind of the theme that I kind of pull through here. So, but to follow up on General Henry's comment, so following on the analogy, we are doing much better at bringing them to the dance. We still have work to do, no doubt, but and I can give you quick entry level numbers, and then I'll talk about where we have some challenges still. But the officer session diversity, we're up to like 34.5% within the officer corps, entry level. That's where I sit. So enlisted and officer recruiting. So up to about 34.5. This was at the end of FY20. About a decade ago, we were 15.6. So we've made some ground. We made a lot of ground there. For young ladies who want to become officers, we used to be about almost 8. We're now at 13.8 as of the end of the FY. So we're making ground there. On the enlisted side, in FY10, we were at 33% diversity on accessions. FY20, we're at 43.4. So we're growing. We're finding amazingly talented Americans on the streets that want to serve our country and corps. And in our OTC packages this year, I just pulled the numbers right before I came in. Out of all the packages that were selected, 37% diversity in that cohort. So the interest is there. So we're bringing them to the dance, but to General Henry's point, is anybody dancing with them? We're getting them in. We're doing better. We still have work to do, no doubt. But what happens after they leave Officer Candidate School, the basic school, or they leave Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Paris Island? Where do they end up in our beloved Corps, and who's taken an active interest in them? And watching for talent and being open for talent. So I just met with the young series commanders yesterday. These are young, eager first lieutenants and captains who are down here, who've had one tour in the fleet, and now they're back at the depot. I actively recruit for folks to come back to the depot. I actively engage with MM, Manpower Management, to come back. So, and then I place them throughout the battalions. So I have, out of the 72 young series commanders, 10 of them happen to be women. They're in every battalion, 1st through 4th. I treat every training battalion like a training battalion, and I spread role models, the talent through all 4, because I need those young recruits to look up and see somebody they can be like. I need that young officer to engage the drill instructors. So we've done better. We still have work to do on that front, and that's at the first lieutenant captain level. And I kind of highlight that level because that's where they start to shape where they're going to go. So if I can get them series commander time, company commander time, that's going to position them for more opportunities in the future than if I just put them in name your billet that's not down in a training battalion. So trying to give them recognizable leadership opportunities so that their talent and their preparation shows. And then they've got just more opportunities when they're a major and a lieutenant colonel and a colonel, and they start slating for command. So that's what I'm trying to do here at the lowest level, and we're blessed with some amazing leaders in command here on the depot. I mean, Axa Donez has got 4th Battalion. You got Rico Player running H&S Battalion. So we have amazing talent that they can look up to as well. But it is a full-on engagement to make sure everybody kind of views it as a talent and getting them to see the opportunity versus just letting it pass by, which is so unfortunate. So I'll pause there. I just wanted to throw some numbers out that we're doing a little bit better. We're getting people in, but what do we do to retain them? How do we keep them interested in our core? What opportunities do we allow and afford them to have? And are they with leaders who are eyes wide open looking for talent? So from where I sit, that's what I wanted to relay to the group is we're doing better. We still got more work to do on the entry level side, but where I'm seeing the gap and where I'm trying to influence is what happens next when they go out into the Marine Corps, and do they still have those same opportunities throughout the rest of their time, whether it's 4 years or 20 or 30. So I'll pause there and defer to the moderator.
General Henry, sir, you came off mute? Do you have something to answer for?
No, I'm just too lazy to wait for the next question, so I was prepared to start talking.
Very, very well, sir. Sir, we actually have, I think, a very good question, and it dovetails on what Brigadier General Nethercott said about the follow-on from accessions and kind of the development or the retention piece. And it comes from Lieutenant Colonel Eric Min, and I'll have him come off mute and actually ask his question.
Good afternoon, generals. Thank you for your time and participating in this panel today. As far as development for these minorities that we're able to actually recruit into the Marine Corps, for the Marine Corps to operationalize diversity, how does the service include career path diversity? Specifically, if a Marine goes off the beaten path, he or she usually suffers at command and promotion boards. I can say as a pilot that this seems to be especially true for the aviation community. Does the Marine Corps have the wherewithal to elevate non-standard experience and value that affords Marines to take advantage of niche opportunities that may be related to their ethnic backgrounds? And the example that I put was Vietnamese American Marine serving at DPAA is completely off the career path, not an opt-for assignment, but needs of the Marine Corps or something that's very beneficial to the joint force that may result in that Marines retention promotion in the future being detrimental.
I see Dimitri up there, like waiting for me to talk so I can polish up. I would argue, yes, we do have a problem that we are not diverse in our career paths. Right. So, from my tradition, I'm a career intelligence officer, but that career path was still tied to the fact that I had to work as an operations officer. I had to work in a specific type of S2. I had to work, as a company commander. I had to do those things. There was no allowance for any type of, even though that it would be viewed as okay, because of even my niche MOS, I couldn't go work at Julie Nethercott's Paris Island and be a company officer. I couldn't do it because that's out of my MOS time. And I would have missed key time, maybe on a MU, okay, or a special purpose MAGTF or what have you. I wasn't doing intel things, right? Or I couldn't go to recruiting. I mean, that'd be a quick branch, kind of thing. Hey, look, he did really well in recruiting, but I missed a key opportunity to come back. Some MOSs are better than others. Right. I think the larger quote unquote combat arms MOSs right now, and I caveat that right now have some flexibility to allow persons to get out and come back in, to actually allow for capitalizing on that strength, that diversity of upbringing, diversity of thought in that key niche billet as you talked about. So some can absorb, if you will, the gain and loss of personnel in and out of the MOS. But some smaller MOSs, like I'm making this up, finance, that's very difficult to do, right? We need finance officers, we need lawyers, things of that, and key MOSs. But I would argue that to your point, but we're going to need that diversity of thought to be capitalized, to be used, to be employed because of how things are changing outside, right? So it's the fact that we need people with language skills. We need people with, I'll call it with the look. We have to have people that with a unique background and the way they were brought up. Maybe they speak 2, 3, 4 languages. kind of thing. And we're getting those people. I'm sure, Julie is recruiting those people and counting them. So we have to allow them to go out and capitalize and on those strengths. We have to be smart enough to employ, from a talent management perspective, this person is this. We need this person right here for 2 years, and then we're going to bring them back. And I mean, we have to make those allowances. We have to give equitable, I'd say, appreciation, okay, for these kind of one-offs that have gone out, and still allow these people to get to school, right, to get promoted, to become a CO someplace or a company commander or what have you. And right now we are parochial in some MOSs. I admit that we are. What it's going to take, though, I think, are people like us, right, talking and outside of forums like this. Okay, once we get back out to like, hey, remember this, and then use this, and then capitalize this. Hey, we got talent out there. We have to get better talent management, and to keep this dialogue up. Because right now, this is, we're going to make some great gains here, I think, in this discussion. All of you leaders here will do the same. We'll carry this back out. But if we lose that momentum, this question will come up next year, and the next year, and the next year. Because I've had this discussion also with lieutenant colonels and colonels. Hey, sir, but. Hey, sir, but. And I know Dimitri knows about this. One thing I found kind of stressing was, we don't put our money where our mouth is. We advertise that we want strong officers to go work, in this case, officers to go work as foreign area officers. Hey, take the time out, go learn a language, go live overseas in a country, become the cultural expert, because we are going to have to use you in some future conflict. And then we do that. And then what do? We don't promote them, and we top them out at major, and then they leave the Marine Corps. That's ridiculous. It still blows my mind that we do that. Right. And that doesn't, matter what we look like. It's just that we don't have that diversity of thought and understanding within our manpower system. Not yet, anyway. Dimitri, you and I have talked about this.
Yeah. So, Julie, you couldn't hear what I was saying at the beginning. I talked about 4 things that I always look at as I look back over my career that have mattered. Mentorship, guidance, opportunity, and advocacy. And as General Seeley was talking, I wrote down in the middle of all 4 of those is timing. And Eric, to your question, kind of about, how do we see it going forward? How do we make sure that those folks are competitive? I will tell you, there are some core competencies that every one of us needs to be able to show across time and in whatever we do for the Marine Corps, for the Naval Service, or for the Navy. So if you can't do that, then there is an issue there, because Julie or General Nethercott recruited us for a reason, right? We need X amount of intel folks. We need X amount of aviators. We need X amount of wrench turners. I can't just willy-nilly allow you, because you happen to be a great linguist or whatever, just go down a path, because then at the end, I need an E9 that has a background of the MOS that I grew you out of to be that E9, or I grew you out of to be that colonel, because I need that experience for that part of my organization, whatever that MOS is. I recruited you for that. What we're talking about, and I think, Eric, you can correct me, what you're saying is, though, how do we as a Marine Corps change our thinking about that path, right? My thinking about the path is this: you have to have someone that's mentoring you and offering you some guidance. And then you have to have opportunity be presented. And then you have to have somebody advocate for you when the moment comes. And the moment comes at those boards when you're there and you can say, now, wait a minute. We have told the Marines, no matter what board you're sitting on, we've told the Marines that we value X, Y, and Z. This Marine who you're now questioning their credentials has X, Y, and Z. And that's just a matter of us as leaders making that decision that we're going to open the aperture. We're going to know shit, do what we say we're doing, and then come to some kind of agreement that is exactly what we were trying to build. I think our issue as a whole for the Corps is we talk about, this peer that we're going to have to confront at some point, and we need to get ready for them. If that is true, then what does that mean for every single MOS in the Marine Corps? Tell me what I need them to look like as individual Marines 10 years from now, 2030, 2031, and then work backwards. And as you work backwards in each MOS, you ought to be able to define what type of capability, or what do I need to build to that final solution 10 years from now, and start building that. And then you could have a roadmap for every MOS that you have out there, for every officer rank. You should have that. And then the board doesn't have to guess whether you needed that talented person to go off to an embassy somewhere in the Pacific. You could just look at it and go, well, yeah, not only are they a great artillery officer, but one of the paths that we needed them to go on was to go get that language and some familiarity with that particular area of the world. They did that. That's enhancing, not detracting. That's just a conscious decision we have to make. The leadership gets to decide that. No one tells us that we can't do it. We have just collectively locked in on the things that General Seeley talked about, EXO, OPSO, name it down the line, and whatever MOS, there's this things that everyone says has to be checked off. I have none of those things checked off. And I'm sitting here as a 2-star. If you look at my bio, show me in there where you see me as an EXO. Show me in there where you see me as an OPSO. You don't see that. That's because I had a mentor who's providing guidance, who always talked about leading and timing, and looked for opportunities for me, and then found someone to advocate for me on my behalf. And that's how you develop and grow your talent. The problem with that is every individual would need someone doing that for them. And that's almost an impossibility. For one, you don't have that many, there's more juniors than there are seniors. And a senior can't have that many folks that they're trying to help navigate this organization that we all know and love. So as we Eric, as we try to build a Marine Corps of the future to be more lethal, and a naval force, I should stop saying Marine Corps, to be more lethal and to operationalize this thing called diversity and inclusion, that's where we have to get our heads up and have real discussions about what do we mean when we say this person is ready for the next grade? What does that really mean? Because right now, I can tell you, it still means EXO, OPSO, and then whatever those key billets are. Well, somebody needs to start defining that more broadly. And if we had to, you could actually write it down and say, this is what we're looking for. These things are enhancing. We did it with border transition teams. We did it with whatever. We precepted that. We said, if these if these Marines, these leaders have this in their background, it should be considered equal to or on par with OPSO, command, whatever it is. We get to do that. The Commandant does, but we get to do that. That's just a matter of making a decision and moving out on it. So Eric, I hope that's helpful to you. But it's everything we're talking about is we can do it. We control it. We get to make those decisions. We just haven't done it. Over.
But before Julie, if you got something to jump in, I Dimitri, totally agree. And I think that now the next step is we have to make those boards, understand what you just said, right? So again, it's one thing, again, we put it on a precept, some briefer's going to say, yeah, hey, this guy with, Captain Seeley, he did X, Y, and Z as an MTT or border transition team guy, but that rest of that board has to accept that. And that's where that challenge is, right? And if they're still stuck, in the 1950s, kind of thing, then it is hard to break, through that barrier. We have to keep pushing it. That's the thing. So again, it's Eric, to your point, also it's more questions, right? It's more asks. It's more senior leaders like us here to kind of keep pushing, right? And convincing our other board members. And I think that's where we have to start doing that, some of that work in some of the senior leadership areas. Julie, over to you. Sorry.
No, completely concur, sir. And that's exactly what I was going to say is the board precepts and educating everybody on the board, that there's an appreciation for a variety of billets and understanding that the Marine Corps called that person to do something else and we need to recognize it. And same thing with some of the MOSs. I've argued in a couple of boards. I'm like, we put that person on that MOS. So let's understand the opportunities that were presented to that individual. And he or she knocked it out of the ballpark every single time, did exactly what we wanted a Marine Corps officer to do, bloom where they're planted, make the best of the situation, the whole thing. But precepts and the boards are the key as well. And then just education. I mean, to your point, sir, there's these traditional gates that we still believe we have to hit, and we will pull ourselves over broken glass to do it. And that is, I had, similar to you, sir, great mentor who just instilled in me, preparation, that nexus of preparation and talent meeting opportunity. But you got to have that mentor that can guide you. But he did absolutely right, but he guided me the traditional path. And in order to hit the traditional path, as a commo who also wanted to do OCS and TBS and recruiting CO, to do those, that's a lot of back-to-back things to try to meet the traditional marketing yourself as a MAGTF officer wickets. So having that mentor definitely guided me through that. But if I didn't have those two early mentors, I would definitely probably not be where I am today, because they saw the opportunity before I did and said, you would be great for that, and I'm going to nominate you for this billet. So yeah, engage mentors, engage leaders, but boards and education up and down the chain, because we are still very fixated on our traditional gates. And it's just really hard for a couple of MOSs to hit it. So I'll pause there, sir.
Hey, I want to say one more thing about this, and this is back to Eric, who asked the question. The other thing I will tell you, I've heard a lot of stories from Marines about things like this. Hey, I went off and did this. I use a term in the middle there called timing, right? Because the Marine Corps is what it is, you actually have to accept that, because that is reality. Reality is right now, the Marine Corps is expecting you to do certain things. And if you decide after someone you trust tells you, hey, I don't think it's a good time for you to go do that. For instance, you've been you've done your time at your MOS, that first tour. And then you decide that you're going to go to the Naval Postgraduate School. Why? Because the Marine Corps has billets. The Marine Corps advertises it, and the Marine Corps says, we're looking for people like you. And then the Marine Corps selects you, or the school selects you, the Marine Corps agrees to it. You go, you're gonna do a payback, and then you go off, and then you decide for whatever reason that you want to go do something else, not your MOS, whatever that something else is. And then you get passed over after doing that something else, when you, in my mind, you should have been going back, honing your MOS skills and taking the talent and the information that you learned at the school and that payback and applying it to your MOS to make your unit and your organization better. You decided to go do something else to hone your skills. Then I can tell you, you're going to get what you get. And there's a two-way street here. You owe the Marine Corps a lot, and the Marine Corps owes you leadership. And you can't, want the Marine Corps to let you go do something and then expect the Marine Corps to not expect something back from you, which they put into you, which was that training initially, with the expectation that you're going to lead Marines and be the master of that particular MOS as you progress over time. So I've heard a lot of stories from folks who go and do FAO, I went to postgraduate school, I did a payback. So I've heard that before. And the one thing that I found when I looked at those Marines records was that they probably should not have went out at the time that they went out. That's usually the overriding factor. And the other one is they left their first billet with a couple of fitness reports that were just average fitness reports. So if you build a body of work over time that are average, and I average for me is not where that hump is on the peak of the sine wave, but it really is when you look at who's riding on you and where you fall there. But if you left your MOS as a young first lieutenant or senior first lieutenant, young captain, and you stay gone until it's almost time to be a major, and those fitness reports that you had when you were in your unit, learning your trade and becoming a master of your trade, and those don't make you stand out, or you didn't make yourself stand out above your peers, I'm pretty sure you're not enhancing that particular line of effort by going to postgraduate school and becoming an engineer when you're a cannon cocker or whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but I'm also telling you that you're not just competing against what you look like, you're competing against your peers. And you got a bunch of old people, whether you like it or not, like me, who are making a determination about all of that they're seeing, the totality of your record and the totality of people that you're competing against. And so you have to put that into perspective. I don't mean to scare you off. Hell, I'm a 2-star general sitting here. I went to postgraduate school. I went to a lot of cool things, but I also went to and did things that showed my MOS progression and leadership progression. And General Mellicott talked about it. You know, the knothole that you get run through trying to go through those hurdles, but they're hurdles right now. You have to jump them, whether you want to or not. You make a decision whether you're going to jump that next hurdle or not, or you're going to go. Don't make this some negative thing, or whether you're going to not jump that hurdle but go to another hurdle, right? And the other hurdle might be something else. It's you and your desires going along and looking at your life as a Marine and determining what opportunities you want to take, and then there's a risk associated with it in every one of them. Where we come in, though, as senior leaders, is when you do come back, you know, I'm the commander. I know you need to be an OPSO. I'm going to make you the OPSO looking at your record based on how competitive you are, so you can make sure that you get that, I hate to say it, a proverbial check in the block, as opposed to, I want to be comfortable. So I've been working with Lieutenant so-and-so, who's now Captain so-and-so, who I work with. Now he's Major so-and-so, he's my OPSO. You know, that we have to learn to be uncomfortable too, as senior leaders, to give opportunity to folks that are deserving of an opportunity. And that, I think, is really the rub, because we want to be successful too. And if I got General Seeley and I can put General Seeley there to help me, I'm more apt to put him there. But in reality, General Seeley's probably going to get promoted anyway, right? He's done all the other things. That's why I freaking wanted him with me. But you, on the other hand, need one more thing to make you more complete. Doesn't mean we're going to select you, but I know that as a senior, I ought to be trying to make you more complete. And that's where the role and work of leadership comes in, where you look at your favorite and you go, hey, favorite, you're fine. You've done all the things you need to do to be successful, and you have the tools in your tool bag, but not him. He needs one more tool, and he's a pretty good full-up round. I'm going to give that person that opportunity. That's a mental shift. And that's a risk that the leader takes, because the leader still wants to get promoted too. And if I had a Julie Nethercott, I'm putting her in charge. Why? Because I know she's going to make sure that I don't get relieved. We have to make ourselves uncomfortable as senior leaders so we can develop our freaking seed corn. That's the problem that we have. Everybody knows who's a good guy, bad guy, or someone they don't know, which is more to the case. And they want to pick the stud to be next to them. When that's a good thing, but I'm at this point, my job is to make sure the core is taken care of, not me. You know, I don't need taken care of. Hell, I'm a 2-star general. I need the core to be taken care of. so that the next generation of Marines and sailors can freaking be successful. And that's diversity and inclusion and making sure that we build a lethal force. That to me is how it's gonna happen. Right here with people that wear these things and people that wear eagles and lieutenant colonels, because we're picking people to go in positions that aren't assigned. I get to pick, I'm preaching now, I get to pick who's gonna be my XO. You don't just show up and like, hey, I was ordered here to be your XO. When I inherit a unit, there's multiple majors in that unit. So we just have to be willing to do that. I can tell you, that's an uncomfortable feeling. So I'll leave it at that and hopefully not beat it to death. Over.
Hey, I gotta share this sea story. So I'm the commanding officer commander on the great and mighty amphibious warship Comstock. We're getting ready to go through fib tray. And anybody knows what fib tray was, it ain't easy. And I walk into the wardroom for the brief, and standing in front of the chalkboard was one of the newest or newer ensigns who had reported on board. So I look at my ops officer and I said in the nicest way, "Are you full of what? Are you kidding me? Why the hell is she standing in front of the board like she's getting ready to say something in front of my fib tray where I'm, we got to pass this son of a thun." And the ops officer said, "Sir, trust me, she knows what she's doing. She's incredible, blah, 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 blah." Major General Henry, I was uncomfortable with that position because I didn't know what was going to come out of her head because she just got here not that long ago. Well, amazingly enough, ops was right. She was all of that in a bag of donuts. She had practiced. She was ready for it. She did a fantastic job. We passed the fifth grade. But that was an example of an officer, my ops officer, taking risk. And I guess me taking the risk and being uncomfortable. Now, of course, if she had mucked it up, I would have fired the ops officer, but, or at least we would have had a closet party, he would have been the party favor. I would have brought the blanket, but that what you said just reminded me of that. Over.
No, I think great points all around. I think there's a great follow-up question to all the conversation so far, and it's from Pearl Winston. Pearl, are you still on the line? If you could ask your question concerning mentoring.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, generals. I just had a very overarching question because I've enjoyed having a mentor and not having a mentor at times, and I know how beneficial it is. So I wanted to know, can the panel members discuss who they are mentoring and why, and how many rank levels removed, proximity to their current command, those kind of considerations that they've made about mentoring others.
Hey, General Seeley and General Nethercott, I'll jump on this for a couple of reasons. I'm going to have to leave here in a few minutes to go to a meeting with the commander. But on this one, I just want to tell you, I pick the persons that I mentor. I have a lot of folks that come to me and they ask me, can I mentor them? And I've quite frankly told some folks, no, I'm not going to mentor you, but I can provide you some guidance. I can coach you. I can do some. For me, mentorship is a relationship that I put time into and effort into. And that means that the protege, not mentee, the protege, whoever that person is, has to do some work. So the other thing is, over time, those proteges that I have been mentoring, I no longer really mentor them. I guide them. I answer some of their questions. I talk to them infrequently, and they call me when they think they need to have a discussion. But when I'm mentoring someone, it is a no joke. You are going to be part of this, not just me giving you some kind of input. So you ask, one of your questions was, who do I mentor? So right now I have 3 folks that I mentor. 3. There are others that will say I'm their mentor, but I used to mentor them. I don't think I can mentor them. They're mentoring me now. I can give them some of my experience and the like and help them, go up, down, left, right. I'm not mentoring them anymore. They've matured. They kind of know what they're doing, and they, everything else is just their own sheer will and goodness. And all I am is just somebody they can bounce something off of. So right now I have a captain, or actually she's a major, I just promoted her, Shelly House, who when I met her was a sergeant in my battalion, became a MESEP, and I've been mentoring her ever since she was that sergeant who became a MESEP, all the way through college, all the way through until now as a major. And she's a US2 on the East Coast. And I wanted to talk about it because she is one of the first female Marines that I've ever mentored. And I look back over my 40 years in the Marine Corps and I go, why is that so? Why did I not ever mentor another female Marine? And, some of it was I had no females anywhere around me when I was a staff NCO and as a young officer. And that's why I gave those talking points like I did when I opened that up. So that took away probably 15 of those 40 years. Still a lot of years left. And I had never mentored a female. That's on me and my inability to be comfortable having discussions with a female about leading Marines, as silly as that sounds, because it's all about leading Marines. It's all about making sure that that person develops so that in her case, she can be the best leader she can be to provide the Marines the best leadership that she can provide them. So Shelly House, I won't name the other ones. I named Shelly because I'm her advocate too. I want people to know that when Shelly House steps into their office and they're a senior officer and they know me and they know that I'm involved with trying to make sure that she gets opportunity and that I advocate for her, I want them to know that. I want them to know that. Now, that's a lot of pressure on her, right? Because if she doesn't live up to what I'm telling them I think she's capable of doing, then my word doesn't help the next person that's being mentored. And my signature on a fitness report is lessened. So that's why I only have a few that I mentor. I select them based on and this is my own saying here, my ability to see talent, reach out to that talent and try to develop it. That doesn't mean that I don't see other talent running around. I just don't have the time and the energy to put into more than 2 to 3 proteges at a time. And strangely enough, one of the other persons that I mentor happens to be an Army female. She's a lieutenant colonel now. She was just promoted. And I've been mentoring Major House since 2008. And now Lieutenant Colonel Graham, you wouldn't know her anyway, since 2015. And I picked them because they showed the potential to be great leaders. And I felt like those are 2 that I could work with. And the other one I'll remain nameless just because he'll remain nameless, but it is a he and it is a lieutenant colonel. And it's almost time for me a person that you knew it, you could tell them that I said, I'm going to cut bait on them, but cutting bait on them because they don't need me to mentor them anymore. And so I'll probably will look for, I have a few more years left in the Marine Corps. I think I got a little bit more to give. So I may look for one more person to mentor and hopefully have some influence in how they make their way through the Marine Corps. But I don't know if I gave you anything that you were looking for in that question, but I believe mentorship is a lot more than a touch point. I believe it is a give and take, a discussion that is had over time, and it's always about leading Marines and always about being better and pushing the other person to excellence. And that's a two-way street, by the way, because I get asked some really, really difficult questions from the proteges that I'm mentoring. And I think they make me a better officer and make me look at the situation a lot differently. So I'll pause there and see if that helps any. Over.
Julie, you want to go ahead and I'll go ahead and close that out?
Sure, sir. Absolutely. So similar to General Henry, I have 4 or 5. I say 4 or 5 because I have one who's a civilian who's she's running her own business. So we talk personal development, leadership. Met her at a conference and just again active engagement. So to General Henry's point, it's an active engagement. So that's why it's kind of limited to 4 or 5. Now I guide about a dozen or so others that will reach out to me that I'm kind of watching their careers, and I'll guide them from time to time. But to General Henry's point, when I say actively mentoring, we're talking about what are you reading? We're on Marco Polo. I mean, it's an active two-way conversation that we have. And like I said, I guide, a dozen or so others and just kind of flight follow their career path and reach out to them from time to time. And to General Henry's point, they've kind of added and moved. I mean, it's a cycle of life, right? So sometimes, to General Henry's point, they fall off, they're good, they don't, and then I pick up another at some point as I've gone up in rank. And similar to my own pattern with mentors that I've had in my life, earlier on, it was my first squadron CO, who I still keep in contact with to this day, almost 30 years later. But he put me on the path to going to the basic school to be an SBC and opening opportunities that I wouldn't have seen. So I've stayed in touch with Colonel Dave Maltby for 3 decades now. And then, of course, General Reynolds has been one. But I met her later on in life. I didn't know General Reynolds till I was a lieutenant colonel. Really early on, there was no one for me to see that kind of was me, because it's the early 90s. It was kind of a different corps back then. So my first 3 mentors were Caucasian infantry officers until really I met Lieutenant Colonel Reynolds, and then developed a relationship as a protege with her. And then most recently, General Walters, who I think of like a second dad from being his military assistant when he was the ACMAC. So it's a dynamic relationship as you go through your career, but some I've held on to for a very long time. And then much like General Henry, sometimes I just guide. Sometimes it's not the active protege relationship it is with these 4 or 5 that I talk to quite more frequently. But I try to help wherever I can, and I have an open door policy, and we'll talk to anybody that needs assistance from time to time. But yeah, it's a lot to put into somebody in that relationship. So I really do kind of hold that circle to about 4 to 6 on any given time, and then guide another dozen or so. So with that, I'll pause there with General Seeley, and let him pick it up from there, sir.
Yeah,
Hopefully
hey Julie. Yeah, that works. I'm very, very similar to both generals there in terms of you got a few folks that you kind of really actively have pretty routine, I'd say, set of communications, and again all through, whether it be again a video chat, a text, emails, and the like. And mine range all the way down from an Asian American. I first met her as a sergeant, and then she became a staff sergeant, and now she's going off to OCS, right? So I can hopefully over the next several years, while I still have some active life, I can kind of see her, also help sponsor her as she pushes up north, I would say, and so she can actually carry her leadership forward for the Marine Corps. Others I've got some captains. To include some Joint Force, some Army captains that I met, and maybe more of a guidance role from my time in Iraq recently, and they're still out there that I communicate with. In some particular cases here, the majority of mine are actually, in this case, Asian Americans, right? Because by default, I'm the now senior Asian American general officer, and so going on the premise though that I can't be who I can't see. Right. And so something I learned earlier too, so I provide some, kind of, some kind of value to them. Like, oh, look, this person has been successful despite any kind of, kind of a racial bias or challenges or what have you. I get it. And if I could provide just an inkling of confidence and mentorship and leadership to somebody in any form or fashion, that's a good news story. Growing up for me though, I didn't pick up we're talking like first mentor here until I was a major. and that person was lieutenant colonel at the time, and we know who it is because D and I probably have the same ones. It's Vince Stewart, right? So Vince Stewart was a trailblazer as a lieutenant colonel when I first met the guy, and then right away then it was an active, we'll say active relationship with him over my lifetime and career as a kind of a senior officer all the way through, even to this day. He and I still communicate, as I'm sure he communicates with Dimitri as well. So that's that's because he's just a great leader, right? So I would say that there's a natural inclination of people to find those like attributes, and it's like, this person, I like what they have to say, right, kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily have to how to look, but it's just like what they say, how they do, how they present themselves, the advice they're following, and then we find solace in that, and like we want to jump on that. I want to be like him. I want to be the confident guy, like him. So that'd be my answers to that question.
The one thing, and General Seeley pointed it out. The folks that I've mentored, two of them I heard General Smith bring up, and that's Ahmed Williamson and Jerry Carter. I met both of them when they were lieutenants and I was a captain. And again, spotting talent, I think, is what we need to be doing, and then trying to make sure that talent has a way to show itself. Not try to place it where you want it to go, but just allow the talent to be seen. And I think when you listen to General Nethercott's story, it was either a pilot, I think a pilot that said, "Hey, you ought to go here," or maybe a grunt that said, "Maybe you ought to go here." That person, whoever they were, probably realized that she can do it. And if she can do it there, she'll be seen. As she's seen, her reputation will grow. Now, there's a huge danger in that. And the danger is that you expose someone and they're not ready. But I can tell you that opportunity that General Nethercott had put her on a path. And we have to give people opportunity. And not all of them will be able to shoulder that. But that's where your own judgment comes in. Is this person ready? If you do that to her, if you do that to him, if you recommend that to them, will it be too much? And if it's too much, will it break them? It's okay for someone to get up and get their mouth bloody. Every man and woman from time to time needs to have their mouth bloody so they can realize that they've been complacent, or if they are complacent, they can get hit in the mouth. So the question is, when you build your relationship with that protege, you got to have those hard conversations. Like, hey, I'll give you an example with, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on now Major House. But Major House, when she was a captain, she was a senior captain. She joined the MU that she's on to be the S2 Alpha. And, it was one of those things where she always wanted to do it because she's floated on every coast. And she wanted to do it one more time and be the MU S2. But the window was closing. And so, we discussed it, and she said, I want to be on a MU, and go be a 2 Alpha and see if you can fleet up to be a 2 later, knowing that, we're only getting about 1 float now for the most part. Well, sure enough, opportunity knocked, and she was prepared. As a 2 Alpha, unfortunately, there was something that happened with the 2, and the 2 could not make that deployment. And the discussion we had when she found out was, so my question to her was, have you talked to the CO and told him that you could do it? Told him that you could step in and be the 2? And her answer, and you can talk to her about it, I've thrown her business out there. She just, she had not. And I said, what are you waiting on? And she hesitated a little bit. Think about that. She was a senior captain, but she was not a major sent there to be the MU S2. And the long story short is she became the S2, deployed, did everything that needed to be done. And now she's a major, and she is the S2 of that MU. And she's going to do well, and she's going to go to the next stage of her career. But she had to step forward. She had to say for herself to her CO, hey, I can do this. I'm ready to do it. But if she'd failed, she would fail greatly. And I can tell you, for all of you listening who are out there still climbing the ladder and fighting to go to that next rung, you have to take those kind of chances. You just have to be ready for it. And if you're not ready, then it'll get exposed. But if you are, then you're going to achieve what you will based on your potential. And for me, we owe each and every Marine that, not just the person that we're mentoring, not just the person we're coaching, but every single individual that's in your organization needs those opportunities. And you get to determine what happens to them when they fail. Hey, did you put them in a position that you knew was over their head so you could let them grow into the position? Well, if they fail, then you did that. Put them back in the arena. Give them another opportunity. Otherwise, I question your own judgment at some point because you're not doing what you should be doing, which is developing leadership, developing capability for the Marine Corps to be lethal or for the naval force to be lethal. And if we're not uncomfortable, then we're probably not developing the team. We're just developing a person who is already developed. You're comfortable having them. If you're comfortable having them, then you probably don't need to develop that person in your organization anymore. You need to get them ready for the next one, but you need to find somebody else to develop because it's about the organization being better over time. And I could talk about mentoring and leading forever because I still believe that it's the one thing that you cannot ever master. All you do is just put more energy into it and it makes you feel better. I talk to General Seeley all the time about it. So I know he and I talk all the time, and I suspect General Nellicott does too. When you see the people that you put energy into succeed, I mean, I gain new energy, new life, and 40 years seems like 10 days until I have to get called into the commander's office to go do something else. But it's a good feeling to see that. It's a great feeling to see the folks that you put energy into succeed, and you can't be afraid of that. But you can't have them do it unless you give them opportunity. And I'm telling you, they don't have to look like you for you to give them opportunity. They just have to be a Marine that's ready to take the position, and you just got to put them in it, and then get them going. So hey, everybody, I appreciate the time. I gotta go to another meeting with what's going on here, and I'm just glad I didn't have to get pulled out any earlier. So I really appreciate it, Admiral Harris and Colonel Seth. Please don't forget me, and yes, sir, you owe me a little bit more time. So I'll pause there and get off the stage, but I really appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, General, I know you got to run. Thanks so much. I got it written down. When you see Admiral Malloy, he's still down there, right? You just tell him that Sinclair Harris said eagles fly high. He will know what it means.
I will, sir. As a matter of fact, I see him now. He's probably going to ask me a million questions and then hit me in the mouth because I couldn't give him the right answer. Because the commander's forward, so there's a lot of questions coming out of forward.
Well, don't worry. He couldn't give me the right answers when he was my combat systems officer either.
All right, sir, I'm out.
Take care, D.
Okay, sir, ma'am, I think we have time for any wrap-up comments that you might have. I just want to be mindful of your time. So over to you, sir, or you can defer to General Nethercott.
I'll go ahead and I'll jump on the recon grenade real quick. Listening to Dimitri's story there about his time, because Dimitri and I were both S2 alphas on our respective MUs, and at the same time, we both fleeted up to be the alphas too for those organizations. So it's kind of an interesting, and in this case, it came back around for Dimitri. So that's good on him with Shelley House, that we have very similar experiences on the West Coast. Yeah, I'll just say that great panel discussion, and I think when it comes down to the mentorship side here, is that it is continued as leaders, it's a give and take thing that I still regarding, at least quickly, I still jump on the fact that, you know, as I work with young Marines, sailors, soldiers, it doesn't matter because I've worked in the joint side, is that I continue to learn every day from everybody I get to work with, right? So, you know, I'll never pretend that I know the answers or have all the answers. It really is about the team. I've always thought about that. I follow Phil Jackson as one of my kind of sports mentors, if you want to call it that. I read some of his books, and he had a great saying, is that the power of we is stronger than the power of me. And it's very simple, you know, but it's still like, wow. So, you know, and again, simple, but so powerful when you really kind of think about it, you know, that the power of we is stronger than the power of me. And I think that in some cases, in a lot of organizations, we have a lot of me's out there, we have a lot of I's out there, and they fail to understand that the really true impact of the team. And that successful teams are in fact diverse from all colors, all economic stripes, and so forth. That it really is about that diversity of thought, diversity of effort that goes into organizations that makes them makes them very, very successful. And I'm just, you know, again, lucky to be part of this particular organization as time marches on. I think that we do have you know, we'll call it what it is. We have some ways to go as the naval service continues to improve with our numbers, with our diversity, and the more that we hear, even in this body, as senior leaders, as mentors to each other, move forward and advance forward, we can make the organization much stronger. Because I think our conflicts in the future will not be easy at all. It will take everybody rowing, if you will, to get us through, I think, some of the challenges that we have that are going to come our way. So again, Admiral, sir, thank you to everybody. Seth, of course, putting this event together. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Julie Nethercott, please, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. And again, Admiral and Seth and the whole team, thanks for allowing us to take part in this amazing conversation again today, and especially for me with two people that I regard very highly, General Seeley and I've walked the E-ring together many a time up in Headquarters Marine Corps. But so first and foremost, if you're ever in Parris Island, you're ever in the state of South Carolina, come on down and come see these amazing success stories, as I call them. So this Friday, we will graduate 502 success stories. Amazing young Americans who joined our beloved Corps from across the nation, and there's going to be tons of proud parents, and they are just, it's a slice of American society. It is an amazing thing to see. So if you ever are in the area, please don't hesitate to drop a line. And then on that note, I'm out there on email. So if you have a question we didn't get to today, please send it. I travel quite a bit with this billet, but I will get back to you. Or if you're looking for a mentor and can't find one, maybe I'm not the fit for you, but maybe I can point you to somebody that may be a good fit for you. Or I get emails, ma'am, what are you reading? And I tell them what I'm reading. I read a lot. So whatever I can do, because General Seeley and I are at the position, and now with what we have on our collar, we want to help. We want to pull people up, continue giving them opportunities, passing along whatever we can. So please don't hesitate to reach out, okay? And whatever we can do to help you on your journey, I know both he and I are open to it. So with that, Seth, to the entire team, and Admiral, thanks to everybody on the entire team. It was a pleasure, and greetings from good old Parris Island.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sir, you guys have been fabulous and really gave us something to think about as we go along in our careers. I just want to pass it over to Admiral Harris for any closing remarks, sir.
General Seeley, General Nethercott, thank you. I couldn't appreciate you more. Appreciate your service, your leadership, and the mentoring, the coaching, the advocacy that you provide for the force, Navy, Marine Corps, and others as you work with them. This is your NNOA. Tell us how we can do better for you in your mission area. Tell us how we can do help in the recruiting, retention, and career development for our officers. Please, I invite you to our 50th coming up, but before then, to engage where you are with our regional vice presidents and our chapters, and show them, please, that this symbol that I keep pointing to here for NNOA, it's got all the colors of the rainbow. And I know it's not cool for some of the younger generation, but for my generation, what it represents is being completely inclusive. We want everybody to be part of the success of our sea services because it's important for our nation. So thank you. God bless you. God bless our United States Marine Corps.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Seth, I've got one question for the Admiral before I go is, do you have an official Twitter's handle? Because I was sneaking pictures of the Hollywood squares here, and I want to go ahead and tweet that I want to give you a shout out and say thanks for the opportunity, things like that.
I think we've got Quan, you know what our Twitter handle is for NNOA, right?
We'll drop it in the chat.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marlon.
Okay, awesome. Appreciate everybody's participation. We'll take a 15-minute break and then we'll come back with our transition assistance team.
And General Seeley, I just dropped my Twitter handle. It's @SyncHarris.
Okay, sir. There it is. I just got it, and I just hit you as a follower. Thank you. This is good stuff, sir. Much appreciated. We'll continue to put the word out.
Thank you. Now that I got you, that makes 2 followers.
Okay. All right.
So I got hands raised by 3 different people, Hewlin, Ron,